little bit better.
Exactly, like little things, not anything major. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get started now. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to part 2 of Maggie May Fish's Cats and the Weird Mind of T.S. Eliot. Now, for Maggie May Fish to call T.S. Eliot weird, that is, I mean, I don't know where she's coming from, but oh dear. Now, originally we weren't going to finish the other half of this video, but I see nothing wrong with finishing personally. I could handle this stuff. Dunn can handle this stuff because he wanted to do it. So really, this is all down to Dunn. I'm like, Dunn, you want to do it? Let's do it. I'm okay. We have like dozens, if not hundreds of other suggestions to do, but we're finishing what we started, and I'm okay with that. And the other excuse I'm giving myself is we're more than half done. So
yeah,
let's go by faster.
Mark in 3D and Sarcastic Hawk replied to your tweet. No. They really hate this lady.
She is special, and it's hard to sometimes stomach her. Like this is my most hated Maggie May Fish video, just because it's
she's insulting poets and established authors who have written good stuff.
Well, yeah, obviously I don't mind when people insult people, but it's why they insult people. Like if you're going to insult a poet, I'm like, okay, poets are free reign because they're poets. T.S. Eliot's much more than a poet. And to say he's weird is fine, because again, these guys are very different thinking process and writing stanzas that rhyme and beautiful stuff and ugly stuff, that's fine. But when you start insulting philosophers and you don't know what you're talking about, and you talk about their personal lives, I don't have patience for this. I really don't. Like if you want to talk about your famous, I don't know, political character that you dislike, oh, they slept around or did this or had all these affairs.
Message coming in.
Fine, it's politics. I don't care.
Patching it through.
But if you're going to attack a philosopher like Ayn Rand or even Karl Marx or anyone really, anyone who's long gone, and you're going to attack their personal life, you're missing the point. You're not worth our time, and you're just a child. So stay on point, stay on target of what you're trying to talk about, and argue the point so that we can respect people for their livelihood and thoughts on what they contributed to humanity. I wish I had the influence of someone as I don't know, intellectually written as Karl Marx. Not what he wrote, obviously, but that he had such an influence on people. And I don't want to insult him as being a this or that, or he had affairs or didn't have any relationships, or that T.S. Eliot was somehow not comfortable around the opposite sex. That is such an insult. Talk about the point. What is it about T.S. Eliot that makes him weird and why that's good or bad? Don't talk about his sex life or this or like, stop with that. Just stop it. It's silly. Mm. So anyway, it's childish. It's really childish. Unless this person wants to do like some weird psychoanalysis and you're studying psychology, then okay. Maybe you're in your PhD and you're doing a thesis and you want to apply your technique to possible characters or profiles of the creative mind. Sure, that's a crazy idea. Go for it. But don't sit there like you're some weird, what do we call her? Armchair?
Chair psychologist?
Not even. No, not Maggie May Fish. No way. She's... I was going to say an armchair film critic, but she's not even that. I don't even know what she is. She is a
armchair psychoanalyst.
If Maggie May Fish studied psychology, I don't think she'd be this weird. I don't know what to call her.
This is your brain on idealism.
I don't know. Yeah, she's beyond my understanding. So we can make fun of that because she's so weird, and we do that every time we sit down and listen to her. So
yeah, because we're just baffled that any human being would ever think this way.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys remember, probably not. It was Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, and he interviewed those people from ABC something. It was Abby's Kitchen. I can't remember what it was called, but it was this huge fiasco like 5-6 years ago. And this couple, this a husband and wife couple, just went crazy. And it was the first time Gordon Ramsay had to walk away because they would not listen. They could not take criticism.
Message coming in.
And it was so strange. Like she had like 3 or 4 cat babies, and she would decorate all her cookies with like whiskers and like just really weird, strange people. And you're like, okay, we can make fun of that because that's what they're selling themselves as, and that's their contribution. So that's fine. You know, it depends on what you're selling. Okay.
Or
what was that?
Reality show. Those people.
Yeah,
like,
reality shows.
wow.
Yeah, you could attack them for being people because they're selling themselves as themselves. That's fine. But when we're talking about Aristotle, we're talking about his ideas, his basic works. We're not talking about his potential homosexual relations and all that other nonsense. That is irrelevant. So it's nice to stick on topic. Okay, hey John Lemley, how you doing? All hail the fish. Yeah. Fish is all the armchair Jedi. Yeah. She is something, all right. Anyway, this is apparently a topic she enjoys, so we try to do our best listening to her. And just to give us some context, let's rewind a few seconds and see what she was talking about.
Old Deuteronomy represents the law, physically manifested in the body of the king. But more importantly, try to imagine the book of Deuteronomy from Eliot's point of view. From his point of view, or someone like Mike Pence, or any other militant theocrat who sees the church as superior to the state, Deuteronomy describes an ethnostate where religion and law are one. It's their fantasy, man.
There is no freedom without the law.
To defy one's leader, who embodies the law, is to defy the Lord God himself.
Okay, so this is fine. I don't mind her interpretation of Exodus or whatever part of the Bible, I don't remember. And yes, some of these commandments are obviously religious in nature, but if we take out the religion, some of them work just fine. You know, thou shalt not kill, not covet thy neighbor's wife, not steal, yada, yada, yada. So for whatever religious text you read, there is some overarching or generalized ethic you can learn from. So it's not all garbage. Every religion is like this. There's something good out of it. There's something interpreted as a law or ethic, which we guess the rest of our laws from. So, or inspired at least.
Like most of like the 10 Commandments are just like an essential like we need these things in order to function as a working society.
Right. If you have property values, you don't steal things from other people. So
that human life has value. Don't murder people.
Exactly. So whether it's created by some burning bush who created these laws on tablets, doesn't matter. What's the substance of the law? What's the substance of these words? That's what matters. So we're not even going to get into any philosophy of law or anything like that. Which is fine. Every religion has this. That's all it is. No big deal.
Rhetorically, that leader becomes God. And we see this idea reflected
Okay, no.
Trump doesn't believe he's a god. He just is kind of a dude who's blaring his weird opinions on Twitter.
The whole point of the commandments was you were in a lawless land after the exodus from Egypt. And the people needed rules. They didn't see Moses as God. He was a central figure.
He's the leader and the spokesman for God.
Right. There's a big difference. And they knew that because they worshipped other things like, was it the golden calf or something like that? I can't remember. False gods.
Yeah, they were having like a giant orgy in front of a golden calf.
Right.
And we're just going nuts. And that was the main thing. Like,
so this is no different. I see this no different than a sheriff coming into town, cleaning a house and saying, listen, this is the law. This is why we have it. Let's all act accordingly. That's the same idea. Only in this case, it's biblical and it's thousands of years ago, etc. So it's also a nice allegory.
Message coming in.
For when
patching it through.
Things go bad and you need to fix things. And you need to have a set of rules that everyone follows. We don't see Moses as God. We don't see Trump as some sort of deity. That's ridiculous. No one does. Joe Crazy. Pence may be a stereotypical altar boy, but he ain't theocratic. I don't know where they get this theocratic bent or stint on the vice president. I don't get it. Because he's religious? Is that it?
I don't know. Maybe. And possibly his connection to Trump. That's possibly what's tainting things in the minds of a lot of people.
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know all these details of all your leaders because I don't care. But it's just like a theocrat, really, in America. I think that would like turn some heads really quickly if that was the case.
Yeah. Like, people don't like mixing religion and politics. Like, people here firmly like the idea of separation of church and state, but we're fine if somebody is religious because we have freedom of religion.
It also is a nice thing to hear because that means they have an ethical code. Now with Trump, we know he's a bit weird. He's got some strange bedfellows, some strange skeletons, but fine. He's found Jesus. He believes in whatever. I don't care. None of this should matter to anyone. It's his personal life. Yeah. But I do realize that people tend to vote for others who have a certain substance of character. So I understand that as well. But we're not even talking. We should not even be talking about this. This is Maggie may fish changing topics for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Here we go. John Lemley. Jumper cables equals theocracy. Okay. I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. Someone please tell me what that means. But I understand what jumper cables are.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Anyway.
In fashion, like in the 1930s when a Nazi pastor used this slogan during a confirmation service. He who serves Hitler serves Germany. He who serves Germany serves God. Don't question me, or you're questioning God, okay? In Cats, all of the characters, without exception, seem to view their society as a given, as simply the way it is. They are seemingly unaware that their society is constructed and that it's absolute wacky town. None of these cats ask, who am I? Or what does this all mean? Or...
Okay, so this is where...
That's not the point of the stupid musical. The point of the stupid musical is to watch dancers in a flaccid move around in an impressive fashion using a flaccid plot as the pretext.
Right. I mean, I don't mind that she wants to get existential, but if that's not in the film or in the story, and the narrative does not impose or question its own existence, then why are you bringing it up? Like if this was, I don't know, a cat who wanted to find themselves and they had to go on a quest and they didn't know what it meant to be a cat, then it'd be like, okay, that is a quest about self-discovery. That's good. You should be asking these questions naturally. But it's not.
It's postmodernism. They want to question everything and just kind of say, oh, what's the hidden meaning in this? How is this racist, or how is this sexist? How is this what can we deeper layers can we interpret it, even though when just factually this is a simple story that has some weird elements. It's mainly just an excuse for impressive dance numbers and like crazy makeup.
Yeah, and I don't mind asking the questions because ultimately in criticism the whole point is to find meaning. But you have to use the right set of tools, Maggie. You can't just start asking existential questions where you're not going to find anything. It's like, let's look over under this rock. It's like, Maggie, it's a musical with people dressed up as cats dancing around.
Yeah.
What are you going to find?
Yeah, and Cats, the movie, is just a weird, surreal nightmare of crazy. Trailers, like, no, everybody was like, this looks disturbing. We're not watching this.
Why does this Deuteronomy guy get to pick who goes to the Heaviside Lair? The entire play is them saying, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am, and this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. Even the villain McCavity isn't trying to disrupt the hierarchy. He's simply trying to become the one who benefits from the hierarchy. He's the Joe Biden of the cat's universe. As a royalist and a traditionalist, Eliot believed that there was an ideal structure for society, an order dictated by God himself, one that involved a divinely inspired king at the top and the unwashed masses at the bottom. In his poetry, Eliot often describes a world that's crumbling, a world that's about to
Okay, this is one of the best poems in the world. It's called The Hollow Men. If you haven't read it, go read it. Beautiful poem, makes you think, very profound. Obviously, it has some religious undertones, but that's not all it is. That's why it's a great poem. There's more to it than just his interpretation of what it means to be a man. So
It's quoted all over the place.
it is very famous, yeah. So this is what we mean by T.S. Eliot. Give him the respect he deserves. He's left his mark with just a bunch of sentences on a page. That's how profound his stuff is.
end. Felt like the world was crumbling around him because of the mass destruction and countless death brought about by World War I. He felt like the world was crumbling because kings and their families were literally being killed off by revolutions, and the idea of a society without a king to tell everyone what to do was terrifying to him. In 19...
I don't know too much about T.S. Eliot. I don't think that's his motivation. And I hate this sort of interpretation. Why did Plato write all those dialogues down? What was the political state of Athens at the time? What all these other environmental influences, like, oh, you live in the Alps, therefore you thought this way. It's like, no, we don't know for what caused these thoughts. And even if we did, who are we to say why someone writes the way they do? Let them be themselves. Let Plato write the way he wanted to write. Jeez. Judge a person for how they were influenced? It's kind of silly.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Oh, boy. John Lemley, waiting for Maggie to somehow reference David Bowie being in support of fascism in this. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised.
Neither. That sounds about right. Though, admittedly, like, a lot of people really like David Bowie. Even, like, people, like, just seem like a lot of people across the aisle really like, all across both aisles, like Mr. Bowie.
I think we respect Bowie as this man who puts himself out there, changes himself every 2 years, and makes, what would the music call? It's basically rock and roll, but it's more like folk music. It's all sorts of things. It's like you look at all these great musicians like Jackson and Bowie and even Bjork and Weird Al and like just crazy idea people. And they just sit there and make a song out of it and entertain you. And it's like, wow. Like I wouldn't imagine, or I could definitely see Maggie going, well, there was a time when Bowie was bisexual and that's when he was influenced by Nazis. You're like, what? Excuse me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bull crap.
18, just as Eliot's career as a writer was really taking off, World War I ended. As a result, the German monarchy was abolished under the new constitution. And also, in 1918, Nicholas II, the last emperor of Russia, was executed along with his entire royal family. This is the summary of their execution from Wikipedia.
Nikolai was shot several times in the chest. Anastasia, Tatiana, Olga, and Maria survived the first hail of bullets. The sisters were wearing over 1.3 kilograms of diamonds and precious gems sewn into their clothing, which provided some initial protection from the bullets and bayonets.
Whoa, what the hell is going on here?
I don't know. I think that she's probably just talking about how T.S. Eliot was probably very emotionally affected by kind of what he thought is kind of like the divine order being upset in such a brutal and gruesome fashion.
Can you imagine having a bunch of women in dresses, having in the inside of their dress laid with diamonds, and then being shot? And then, how do you even tell this? I was watching as these women were getting shot with a machine gun, and they weren't dying. And you're like, what? Clearly, they had diamonds sewn into their dresses. Like, well, really?
Admittedly, like, the Russian Revolution was a terrible time for everybody. It was a horrible thing. Just as not quite as bad as the French Revolution, but the French Revolution is kind of in a league of its own in terms of horrors that happened.
Yeah.
Message coming in.
So admittedly, like I imagine a lot of these people would be like, "No, eat the rich, kill the rich."
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around being shot and being somewhat protected by diamonds and precious gems. It doesn't make too much sense to me, but okay. We'll go with that, Maggie.
Stabbed with bayonets and then shot at close range in their heads.
That description is a nightmare. Even to someone like me, who thinks royalty is inherently immoral and corrupt.
Okay, so
No, it is not inherently immoral and incorrect. That is not true.
having a feudal lord,
Royalty is
there's, I mean,
it's not,
Message coming in.
Go for it.
it's basically
Patching it
just
through.
a boss in charge of protecting an area, and if there's any sort of invasion or people trying to take stuff, they get called in. They send out their soldiers or their knights or whatever they had at the time to stop raiders and this and that. And that's why you see a lot of villas, the castles in ancient or medieval Italy, where every sort of fiefdom had their own castle, and then a village was built around that castle, and then there was no longer any more need for raiders over the hundreds of years, and they just sort of stayed the test of time. They're still there. Nowadays, most of those villages are drying up because they all moved to the big cities and live where there's work. So, feudalism existed for a reason. There's nothing evil about feudalism. And I'm sure there were bad kings and bad lords and bad viscounts and bad duchesses and all these other people in charge, but you could say the same thing of any political system. So there's nothing inherently wrong with...
Feudalism is flawed because it's essentially like regimented slavery for the peasantry.
It really depends.
That's one of the reasons why it doesn't quite viewed as relatively immoral. A lot of big problems with feudalism are economic, where
Message coming in.
A lot of people like on the bottom supporting a lot of people on the top who do bugger all to support them.
Right.
They will kind of protect them with military, but that's not very frequent.
Right. That's the question is, why do we need this person and their cabinet to, like, you have lords and they all believe in one king. So is the lord of your land good to you? Does he raise taxes on you? How does that work? There's all these sorts of details. I would argue it's probably simpler, if not extremely similar to what we have now, aside from the whole military requirement, because we live in cities and we have to look for things like urban crime, not external countries or external forces trying to rape and steal. So
the main problem with feudalism is serfdom more than like the dude at the top, really.
Right, the aristocracy or the oligarchy being in control, telling other people what to do, and all the various crazy abuses of power once you have that authority. And that's normal. We get that. But that happens throughout any political system. And I don't want to talk about politics because I find that topic very boring. But it's never a pretty thing talking about politics. And,
no, it's not.
But any flavor is usually a bad flavor, unless we want to talk about the virtues of Plato's 5 regimes and why he believed that out of all of them, this is the best and how that works. Very different topic of conversation. We're not going to get into that. Anyway, let's read some super chats. John Limley, are we really seeing an excuse for the Russian Revolution? Yeah, I guess she liked it because, again, the rich people in charge died. They got shot. Yay! Thanks, Maggie. Yeah, well.
A very brutal and horrible fashion.
Here's Onihia Jones. You remembered when I called you guys the overly analytical rangers? She is your pink ranger. Oh, dear. Well.
Kinda. Just attractive as most in either personality or form as most of the pink rangers in.
I don't know if I would.
series.
I don't think I'd want to be part of a critic team where she's on the part of. She's somewhere in the room. And we're part of a group. That would be terrifying.
I would be scared that she would murder everybody who wasn't as progressive as her.
Yeah, as politically minded as she was. Like, Maggie, we're watching The Princess Bride. Can you chill out for like 2 seconds? But I want to talk about the politics of the era. It's like it's a made up world. Countries. There's no real politics. Maggie, it's just
force her to watch Game of Thrones.
Oh.
I imagine she'd blow her brains out after watching a lot of Game of Thrones. She would be like, George R. R. Martin is a horrible sexist and fascist, and he's terrible. When in reality, he's actually very far left. He leans pretty far left. Has been very inclusive in terms of his writing, and has put people who are like of different body types, color, skin tones, and that sort of thing in his books since the 80s.
I would imagine that. Actually, I was going to ask you, what do you think is George R. R. ever going to release his was it an 8th or 9th book? Like, I don't think it's coming out.
Either. He has released sample chapters of Winds of Winter, which is book 6 of A Song of Ice and Fire, and he a couple of years ago, released Fire and Blood, which is basically a in-world history book about the Targaryen dynasty, but he just hasn't written like much in
5
Winds
years?
of Winter. So I don't know. He maybe in like 3 or 4 years we might see Winds of Winter. I don't think we're going to see the last book, Dream of Spain. There's no way. He's going to die long before it. If like the amount of time that he's taking to write book 6 is any indication, where he's been at this for 9 years, I'm like, no way.
Yeah, I just, maybe to be on his deathbed, or maybe posthumously they'll show off a few chapters he written, but I cannot see a person taking that long, especially with the way the world is right now, where you have all the time in the world to write. And he's obviously financially stable. He has every opportunity to sit down on his, what is it? He uses like a word perfect DOS machine or something like that to type. He uses the blue screen.
He can get hacked.
Yeah, whatever he uses, but he's had years. Come on.
Yeah. I honestly give it to Joe Abercrombie as his ghostwriter. Just give him the ideas, give him the outline. Tell him, please at least be faithful. Abercrombie can do it. He's proven himself, at least I think so. He proves that he gets at least like a lot of the ideas of grim dark fantasy, which is essentially George R. Martin.
Yeah. All right. We got to go through 2 more chats, and then we have a donation to read. Taker 610, social outcasts should be sent away in balloons. That'll scare the shit out. Woo! You aren't coming down for a long, long time. That's one way of doing it. John Lemley, The Princess Bride, are you co-signing royalty? There is some political stuff in there, but it's all a farce. It's all just a thing to have. It's not a big deal. It's all just background dressing. You don't need it. It doesn't have to be Gilder versus some other country. That's all just background noise. It's not important. Here is Fritz Phloginal. Again, thank you. The only reason people like Maggie think the way that they do about capitalistic systems falling apart is because she thinks she's never been the one at the top, and by tearing it all down, everyone's as miserable and useless as she is. That's one way of looking at it. I don't know. I
think of it is basically they know that they are useless, and so they try to solve the cognitive dissonance by trying to justify these videos.
I mean, they are successful as YouTubers. I mean, that's still something. So I would say they're more popular than the average YouTuber. But I don't get this hatred for wealth. Like, what is wrong with liking wealth? or being successful. I don't like they are successful. Do you hate yourself? Is this like some weird childhood trauma that you want to justify your hatred for yourself because you're successful? I don't get it. I don't mind people on either aisle of the political spectrum who believe in taxes or social programs or an army or this or that. But why do you have to hate the other side? I don't get. I don't understand it. Anyway. John Lemley, social outcast Fulton extraction successful. Oh, see? I knew you were going to do something clever. Just being inspired by Taker 610's quote there. I like it. Yeah, one of the scary things of Peace Walker and MGS 5?
Patching it through.
Yeah, I thought it was 4, but it was 5. Fulton extraction is insane. Especially when you consider that they're using a helicopter to pick those guys up. Anyway.
Corrupt. And to someone like Eliot, who believed that a country's royal family is the physical embodiment of that country, killing off a royal family was the equivalent of wiping an entire country off of the map. It would be apocalyptic. Eliot doesn't weep for the death of the modern world. He doesn't weep for the soldiers or civilians who died in World War I. He weeps for the death of a handful of inbred authoritarian tyrants whose bejeweled grip on world politics was slipping. That's why Katz has repeated...
Okay, so I see nothing wrong with people appreciating the people in charge, like we salute the queen even though she's just a figurehead. There's a representation by that, by the queen representing the country, even symbolically. So it doesn't have to literally be the queen. It could be anyone of the royal family, and you respect them because they represent something. It's the same idea behind a symbol, something related to a person you care about or an ideal you care about. It's the same idea. And what's wrong with a person who's a poet, who's technically by that definition a romantic, who is admiring the times that he lives in?
I like even Tolkien is like, he's a fairy tale dude where he says the realm prospers and like just says like Aragorn, because of his character, ruled justly and wisely, and the realm of Gondor prospered because Aragorn was a good man. And that's kind of the basis of Romanticism, is that there will be a good king, a good ruler who will care, his legacy will carry on.
I would
that's
love,
ultimately the point of it.
I would love to see her bash on the Queen of England and the royal family, who are just nothing more than figureheads. They have no real authority.
They're basically just like, here, toddle yourself out for some photo shoots, look pretty, and maybe cut some ribbons.
Yeah, like you can't really fault them for doing much aside from giving up the power that they had and allowing countries that they previously owned to be independent. So that's a good thing, right, Maggie? Right?
There are slight problems with infrastructure and the removal of what was originally a structure into a lot of the countries that the British Empire had, but that was going to happen no matter what.
They cannot sustain themselves. They cannot control the world. They have to let it go and let those places be independent. It's pretty basic stuff, even economically. So, all right, let's keep going. Joe Crazy, you don't know that, Maggie. I'm sure he shed some tears for the lives lost during World War I. I think anyone who was close to the World War lost friends, lost family. So yeah, it's kind of cold-hearted for her to say that T.S. Eliot, a poet, only cared about the royal family. That's a bit weird. All right. One more from Fritz, then we'll keep on going. In other words, she's just playing for the Trump family to get gunned down in an unfortunate accident. Also, it's Philogene. The 2 is the second. Oh. What was I saying? Fritz Philogeny? Philogenal? Philogene the second.
I don't know.
There we
go.
Yeah.
references to the good old days of Queen Victoria. It's why Eliot says that we should be proud to be nodded to or bowed to by Bustopher Jones. It's why Eliot characterizes old Deuteronomy as not just a leader, but as a kingly father who spreads his seed to create his noble cat society. Yes, the society in cats is bizarrely inbred, just like a royal family. To sum up my hot take...
So, yeah.
Trump has the Trump family is inbred. Where are you getting this from?
How are they a royal family?
He's going to leave at some point.
Yeah, you guys have a republic.
He can't change the Constitution.
Yeah, it's you vote the guy in. That's how it works there, Maggie. It's not unless you're Star Wars and you're Episode 2, where they retcon the royal family as being voted in. I don't know.
She's basically a doe. Like, just call her a princess of Naboo, because a similar system was used by the doges of Venice, where the assembly would vote the doge into power from their own ranks. But usually they were like princes of the city that had benefited the city financially in trade or whatever.
Yeah, this is a pretty much bashing on all things authoritarian or has authority or has any semblance of political power bad, unless it's our big black Jesus or some other
Message coming in.
wonderful authority
Patch it
figure
through.
we like. That's what I'm getting out of this. So thanks, John. Guys, don't you understand Orange Man bad? Yeah. Apparently not. Let's repeat it 20 times in this video.
Cats is propaganda, but poorly made, so it's wonderful.
What?
What? Oh my gosh, the cat thing again.
Cats is propaganda, but because it's poorly made, it's good? What? Let's just rewind. I don't...
Yes.
Cats is bizarrely inbred, just like a royal family. To sum up my hot take, Cats is royalist propaganda, but poorly made, so it's wonderful.
Okay. Because
It's like
something
the idea that
Yeah.
it's like the idea that if something, like with us, where we kind of just look at TLJ and it's just like, the message is failure is the greatest teacher. Failure is the greatest teacher is not going to be taken in by majority of the audience because of how poorly the lesson is delivered.
It's like us
Maybe
saying
that's the line of
TLJ.
logic.
Yeah, it's like TLJ is so bad. Because it's bad, it's good. It's like, no, that's not why it's good or why it's bad. If you want to see it in a positive light, it's a lesson to not do things a certain way. But because she sees things as she dislikes as bad and it's done poorly, therefore it's good because it makes her laugh or something like that.
But it's just like, it's such a poor delivery of the message that makes the message look laughable that she likes it.
Yeah, it's like, imagine watching a film that showcases how great King Arthur is and how great monarchy is and how well he treated people, and it's everyone's happy. Like she would hate that because it's a positive message. Whereas if you watch, I don't know, someone doesn't like watching Excalibur or something like that, reading about knights and this and that.
Message
If
coming
it's
in.
done poorly, she likes
Patching
it
it through.
because it's done poorly.
Honestly, I'm interested to watch Excalibur in its entirety. I could have watched it for a King Arthur class that I took, but I didn't get the chance because I'm not. I know enough about the Excalibur movie where it's just it's not quite as bad saying Game of Thrones directed by Zack Snyder is how I've heard a couple of people describe it. And it's just no, it's just kind of hokey acting and just not very good fight choreography because they're using really cumbersome bad armor.
Oh boy, John.
Message coming in.
If she
Patching it
thinks
through.
Cats is propaganda, wait for her to find out the CIA has an office in Hollywood. Yeah, well, it's only bad when you think it's bad. That's how it works. Taker 610, inbred, cue the Princess Bride meme. Yeah, I know. Oh, dear. So many memes from Princess Bride. It's fantastic.
No. Hey, no, I'm serious. Hey, come on!
What? What was that about?
What the?
I don't... whatever.
Between the world wars, Eliot was one of the most highly regarded critics of literature in the West, and he knew it. Here's Eliot writing to a friend in 1919.
As it is, I occupy rather a privileged position. My social position is quite as good as it would be as editor of paper. I only write what I want to, now. And everyone knows that anything I do write is good. I can influence London opinion and English literature in a better way. I am known to be disinterested. There is a small and select public which regards me as the best living critic, as well as the best living poet in England. I really think that I have far more influence in English letters than any other American has ever had, unless it be Henry James. I know a great many people, but there are many more who would like to know me, and I can remain isolated and detached.
Eliot uses words like isolated and detached, as if those are good things for a critic to be, and...
Wait. What's wrong with being isolated and detached as a critic? Why?
Trying not to be biased as much as possible.
Why is that a bad thing, Maggie? Is it like some weird social thing that you have to be connected and constantly public and
Message coming in.
out and about and
Patch it
going to
through.
like jazz clubs and listening to every hot new thing? Why? If I was a serious critic and doing this for a living, then you would want to be as detached as possible. So when something new comes up, you could look at something clearly without saying, "Oh, this is what I heard last week from some other thing, or last year." No, you want someone who's well read, well studied on the medium, who knows what they're talking about. He's not influenced by other people, and has their own opinions as why something works. Hopefully, an expert in the field. So writing would be Eliot's main area, but that's it. Like he wouldn't start telling us why some soccer team is doing poorly or how that's going to win the pennant. So no.
I can say honestly, I would need to actually read Stephanie Meyer to have a better idea of specifically what she does wrong. But it seems like from the general consensus that it's basically this lady missed her calling and should have been a straight up horror writer rather than a romance writer, because just the concept of imprinting is disturbing, where you're basically this adult dude is immediately imprints on a baby and says, "I'm going to have sex with that baby to continue the bloodline."
Oh God.
That's what imprinting mechanically is. He is not a big brother, folks. I'm sorry. It's creepy.
I'm your uncle, soon to be your husband. Oh dear.
Yeah, he'll just basically wait and groom her until she is at the right age. Great. That's not creepy at all.
Yeah, here's Joe Crazy. She must be into some weird role playing. I think she just likes dressing up and makeup and being freaking weird. Yeah.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Here's John again. I love how any frame will lead to an awkward pause. Yeah, anything she does. It doesn't matter what she's talking about. It's always like, oh. That's Maggie.
I couldn't agree. But what I want to point out is how those words isolated and detached, they aren't expressive or personal. It sounds more like a self-imposed prison sentence. And notice how Eliot takes on this attitude of, it's lonely at the top, as if he's
Did he actually say that? I don't think so.
I don't know. He didn't say it's lonely at the top. It seems like he was like pretty near the top of his field, but he's not saying like it's lonely at the top.
Yeah, he's telling
That's not what he's saying.
His whatever friend or what have you, saying I'm of high esteem. People believe I'm great, and I have my own faculty to do whatever I like, which is a good thing. Bravo, T.S. Eliot. You have proven yourself to the public. What's wrong with this?
It was the Stephen King / Brandon Sanderson of his era,
right?
Where basically they just walk in and say, "Publish my book or publish my work," and they're like, "We'll do it because we know it will sell."
Exactly. So I have nothing wrong with writers being pompous. I really don't. It's when they start making crap while being pompous that's the problem. Or in the case of Martin, he just stops writing. He's like, what?
Or he writes side projects like in world history books for his books.
Or even worse, when he says he's going to finish a book and he never does. Like that's the worst. It's when you say you're going to do something and it's not done.
He's missed like 5 deadlines. Like he's made himself. His fans have not made the deadlines. He said, "I will get this book finished by this point, and if I don't, you may put me in jail." That was this year, 3 or 4 months ago. No news. He's just slow.
No, he's something's going on there. I don't know what it is. It can't be writer's block. There's something else going on. If it was writer's block, he would have said so.
It was just stress.
Throughout his career, he repeats this idea that he has the right to render final judgment on writing. For example,
did Maggie draw this dude? I think she hired someone to draw this horrible picture, but okay. I wouldn't be surprised if it was her.
Interesting Iron Throne reference. I guess she has watched Game of Thrones. She just won't comment on it. Interesting. Because there's a lot in there that she would frickin' hate. It's not even like story related. It's just like non-progressivism, like rape happening a lot.
Yep.
And they just like hate that sort of thing. Even though it's like, that happened. That happened. Admittedly, it's a little bit much, but there's kind of just, yeah.
The same medic lecture series I mentioned earlier, Eliot reassures the reader that he only cites worthy authors.
I am sure that those of whom I have discussed are among the best, and for my purposes, the second-rate were useless.
Eliot gets to decide what is good poetry and bad poetry.
Good for him. What's your problem?
If your work doesn't align with his values, it's not just bad writing. To someone like
wow, what does that sound exactly like, Maggie?
You're a hypocrite, Maggie. You are exactly the same.
Eliot, your writing is useless, and you're probably a bad person.
Oh my God, Mahler? Mahler? How did we go from Stefan Molyneux to Paul Joseph Watson to Mahler? What? I gotta take a screenshot of this.
Oh my
this is crazy.
This is hilarious. Saying that his opinions are law, he just is very, very meticulous in his research and trying to make sure he has all the references.
I can't believe this.
Because he hates your Last Jedi sacred cow? Oh, Maggie?
I knew Mahler was influential and he's a big YouTuber and all that, but holy crap, Maggie, jeez. I can't get Paul Joseph Watson? Molyneux? Oh, come on. Stefan Molyneux is a philosopher in Toronto. He's Canadian. Very, very different content than, well, those two other gentlemen. So I don't know. I don't know why she's doing this. This is retarded. Mahler is actually a critic of media. Those other two guys can do it as well, but that's not their focus. One's a philosopher, one's a news guy. Their politics are a little more clear. Mahler's politics, I don't even know. I don't think he cares about politics. But I'll be happy to show Mahler that in Maggie May's. Was it 3650? Let me just write that down.
3650. You just super chatted 0 self-awareness.
Yeah, thanks, Joe Crazy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. That just threw me for a loop. Let's see if there's any other YouTubers she copied and pasted over T.S. Eliot's caricature. Oh, God.
You might be bringing about the
Tim Pool. He's a lefty.
Like I said, leftists eat each other.
He voted for Bernie Sanders.
Leftists will eat each other.
What is going on?
I don't know. It's weird.
Oh, God. Maggie, do some research, please.
fall of Westernization. And Eliot's words did carry power and authority. As a critic and publisher, he absolutely had power over which poems and novels might live or die.
I want to decide who lives and who dies.
Oh, I don't know.
I think we can draw a very important comparison here between the way that our society privileges stillness in body language and the way that Eliot privileges stillness in writing. Not just his own writing, but the entire Western canon. By freezing our body language, society discourages us from expressing ourselves.
By raising our body language? What the hell does that mean? Raising? What are you? What does that mean?
Word choice. I don't know. It's just like, what's her? I don't even know what her point is, other than fascism bad and T.S. Eliot was fascist.
I'm quite sure there's a huge history, like hundreds of years of ballet and dance in Russian culture, Europe, all kinds throughout Europe, and Chinese, Japanese. It's a worldwide thing. Dance. If that's what she means by body language, because I don't know what's going on here. We have
maybe in maybe in public life where we're just asked to be a little bit more reserved in certain cultures.
I guess, but that's maybe. That's a sign of the human behavior. That's nothing to do with whatever the hell she's talking.
Generally look at people who are throwing themselves all around the place as either weird, crazy, or in need of help. I'm personally happy with that because I would rather have that.
Is suddenly
weird.
Are things better because Andrew Lloyd Webber made a musical? We've had ballet before, Maggie. Lots of ballet. Better ballet, way better the ballet than Cats. Cats is a joke. Cats is the laughing stock of the stage.
That's basically just it's like the low rent. It's at least ballet has some kind of expressive narrative that you can do. Cats is just weird. It's basically the hipsters show.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how to call it because there's been other musicals like The Lion King and other popular ones that people sort of know from Andrew Lloyd Webber. Les Miserables is probably the bigger one. He's mostly known in the 90s for
Phantom's pretty big.
Phantom of the Opera, yeah. There's all kinds, but Cats is so old.
It's kind of like Cats.
Jesus Christ, Superstar is a big one in the 70s. But it's really, the Nutcracker is probably the most known just because it's seasonal, but
Swan
Lake's a big one, you're right, yeah.
Dead. It's the one about the lady who dies after this prince who has been in disguise, turns out he doesn't love her or whatever. Can't remember what it is, and he goes off looking for her spirit or something.
Right. The point is that there's all kinds of of dance and ballet. We have the Olympics. There's a huge history. There's all kinds of world-renowned schools in Russia and Europe and China that you go to study these things. And we've had expressive people all throughout life. It's not like just this year. It's like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. People have been dancing and being emotional and crying and screaming and talking. So what is she on about?
Film. Lots in film.
It makes it harder to bring about change, progress, and revolution. Eliot used his status as a critic and poet to freeze language, writing, and culture in order to control what people read and what they thought about writing. In tradition and the individual talent, Eliot even goes so far as to say there are literally only two types of emotions you can feel: the ordinary or the perverse.
One error, in fact, of eccentricity in poetry is to seek for new emotions to express, and in this search for novelty in the wrong place, it discovers the perverse. The business of the poet is not to find new emotions, but to use the ordinary ones, and, in working them up into poetry, to express feelings which are not in actual emotions at all. Poetry is not a turning loose of emotions, but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality, but an escape from personality. But, of course, only those who have personality and emotions know what it means to want to escape from these things.
That's a very interesting take on poetry. I always see it as a stylized form of emotion where you're allowed to be musical and breaking the rules of grammar and do things you normally wouldn't do. So it's kind of like a sandbox to play and say things you normally can't. That's how I see it. Now he's saying it's like, well, there's only a certain range you could use, and you want to get away from what you know. You want to do something outside of your personality, which is fascinating. I don't know what that means exactly, but I mean, being a poet is something I'm not familiar with. I don't actually like poetry that much.
I don't like poetry either, so we're in the same boat.
Yeah. So when you read Whitman, Walt Whitman, who does crazy stuff in poetry, it's very profound and strange. You're like, wow, what's an eidolon? What is he talking about? What is this great barrier? What is this frontier in America I've never experienced? Like, what are you talking about, sir? It's very strange, but it's also very emotional. And for Eliot to say, well, there's only a few emotions, and you're trying to escape from that whole fiasco and say something else. That's interesting. I want to know what he's talking about, because T.S. Eliot writes very profound stuff, very memorable stuff. And maybe the value of a poet back then was more valuable than it is today. So he had a better perspective of what that meant. Think of it like rock stars of, nowadays. We don't really can equate poetry to that very well, unless we're talking about rap or some other very basic form of music where you have a beat and words. So I would equate rap as being a form of poetry just because of its simplicity. But this is fascinating. To me, this is an interesting quote. I don't even like poetry, so.
In Eliot's view, a poet must limit themselves to ordinary, socially acceptable emotion.
No, he's not. Oh, dear.
No, he's not saying that. He's saying have put themselves out. From what I understand, he's saying put themselves outside of their realm of experience. Like, it's an escape from their regular personality.
Right. They're trying to be another character when they write. They're talking about something that is romantic to them, is special to them, and they can't express it in a basic prose fashion. They have to do something different. Mm-hmm. That's why you have breaks in the sentence. You have breaks in the page. You have spaces between letters and words, which you wouldn't do in prose. Prose has lots of rules. Poetry has some rules. It's the nature of writing.
It's yet another of how he tries
to reproduce the world as it has been conventionally produced.
In this view, if feelings of, say, homoerotic love aren't already visible in public, that's because they must be perverse and therefore are not valid emotions. Ordinary. Perverse. ordinary, perverse.
What?
And notice how whenever Eliot describes
Message coming in.
someone or something that
Patching
he
it
doesn't
through.
like, he uses language with implicit bias, like the word perverse. Wonder why he would do that. As the political scientist E.E. Schatzsnyder wrote,
The definition of the alternatives is the supreme instrument of power. The antagonists can rarely agree on what the issues are because power is involved in the definition. He who determines what politics is runs the country, because the definition of alternatives is the choice of conflicts, and the choice of conflicts allocates power.
I have no clue what this has anything to do with what we're talking about.
I don't know either, and I'm just like going back to the image of like perverse, not perverse, perverse, not perverse. Homoeroticism didn't have any like thing with the like new emotions. Love is not a new emotion. I would honestly argue that there is no such thing as new emotion because all emotions have been felt throughout all courses of time. It's just that some of them haven't yet been put to paper. Because I honestly, actually no. All emotions by this point have been put to paper in one form or another, considering the wide variety of writing that there is out there right now.
Yeah, I think it's more important to try and define what is meant by perverse and in what context, because we can easily say it's a sexual perversion, it's an excess of one emotion, or a miscommunication of what the original emotion was, so it gets
Message coming
changed in some way.
Patching it through.
So there's lots of ways of using the word perverse. And
So kind of all the image of like the T.S. Eliot threatening a lady with a bow and then it turning to the woman being threatening T.S. Eliot with a bow, like being seen as perverse. It's just like, where are you getting that from? Just is there any way that like Keats said like don't produce like this sort of narrative? Like don't like have like female characters threaten male characters, only have male characters threaten female characters?
I
don't understand where she's coming from.
No, I think this, and even this quote is making me even more confused because now we're bringing it back to politics for some stupid reason. And I don't even know who E.E. Schatzsnyder is. The semi-sovereign people. Like, what is going on here? We're supposed to be talking about a dancing musical with people dressed up as cats, Maggie. What's happening?
There isn't much to analyze in Cats, so she has to go like authorial intent or whatever with it in order to get some like material out of it.
Yeah, I'm a little confused here. Let's just keep going. Here's Fritz again. Maggie may fish, more like petty ass bitch. Oh, I'm
not wrong.
I don't know. She's so confusing. I don't know what's going on here. Is she petty? She seems weird. I don't know if that translates to being petty. Is she jealous? Maybe I don't think so. It's weird. Anyway, it sounds like T.S. was a guy who preferred the difficult and constraint of tradition in order to build something stronger, but in contrast, he thought out there stuff was too easy to do. That's an interesting way of putting it, because when you talk about poetry, you can break all the rules, right? You can just write all over the page, write backwards, forwards, it doesn't matter, as long as there's, some sort of idea behind your madness. But that would make a mess, and you'd almost waste most people's time. So when you have to use stanzas and soliloquies or any sort of pattern that people go, okay, I see what you're doing. What does it mean? How does it make me feel? That's the beautiful thing about poetry. You can break the rules and get away with it. And in prose, you can break some rules, but not a lot. You're going to piss off a lot of people very quickly. So I like when we have these old guys who are like, yeah, no. Writing is this. You can do X, Y, and Z, but that's not worth your time. Like doing the crazy stuff, probably not a good idea. Because when you make poetry, it has to resonate. You're doing something innately emotional, innately intellectual. It shares this wonderful place in our hearts and minds that you have to appreciate it. When I read poetry, I get very, very bored because I don't care about the topic. And you have to make me care about the topic. Like a boy going down the street and petting a cat is a very specific kind of emotion. And if you don't make that interesting for me, I really, really, really don't care how much you love that cat and how pretty it is and how cute it is and how soft it is and all the other details. I do not care. So poetry works on a very select few, and so should the contents therein. Taker 610. I'd put Parisian food critic Anton Ego over Eliot. I don't know that guy. Who is he?
Anton Ego is a character in Ratatouille. He's a food critic.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Similarly, Elaine Scarry writes in her book, The Body in Pain, political power entails the power of self-description. This is why internet trolls and alt-right weirdos spend so much time insulting you with weird euphemisms or denouncing you in long...
Zog? What is a zog?
I've never heard of a zog. That's a new one. I've heard pretty much everything else.
Oh, God.
And they're applicable, so white genocide is inherently stupid.
So now we're talking about...
That part is so...
We're talking about right-wing trolls. How did we get on this topic?
Long judgmental statements that have nothing to do with the argument at hand. They're interested...
Wow, nothing to do with the argument at hand. What does that sound like, Miss Fish? Oh dear. So Paul Joseph Watson is taking a thumbnail from the Try Guys, who used to be on BuzzFeed, I think. And those guys they're fine. I mean, they're fun, but they're just a bunch of, what's the word? Man children? I don't know what the phrase is. I'm sure they're nice guys, but their content is very, very childish for me. And if you want to make fun of, you're allowed to make fun of public characters. That's fine. That's normal, especially in today's age where we have so much media to consume. It would seem strange not to criticize each other.
In limiting the boundaries of the larger debate and assigning moral value judgments to their opponents' identities. Think of the way that conservatives label anyone they don't like as terrorists, from
because they are
nonviolent, peaceful protesters to anti-fascists. Terrorist simply comes to mean anyone who disagrees with me.
No. Oh, geez. We could argue exactly the same point, only instead of calling them terrorists, they call them fascists.
Yeah. And actually, much damage and are just as racist. They're just racist in a different way.
They're destroying the use of the words. Why we have these words in the first, what their meanings mean, what they have in value to the lexicon of words we've had over the years. No longer are you a fascist if you were around Italy at the turn of the century or part of Germany or Austria or whatever during World War I. Now you could be a fascist and this or that in today's age in North America simply for disagreeing with someone.
Oh, man. They sent judgmental statements, calls people trolls. It's hypocrite. That's an interesting hypocritical statement, Mrs. Fish. Yeah, you need to go back to the padded cell where you came from.
How's that echo chamber on Twitter there, Fishy? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or wherever she hangs out.
Twitter.
Then think of the way that Blackwater employees who literally travel across the world to massacre innocent civilians get labeled neutral terms like contractors. Or think of
because they're under contract to use their services in a militaristic fashion. I don't like it, but that's that's their role.
Mercenaries, essentially.
Yeah, they are contracted by the American government to do things that they have been appointed to. That's, what is it, the private military organizations, PMOs? Or PMCs, whatever they're called? Yeah. That is a legally allowed organization or corporation you can make and work in if you wanted to. Private security. You can do that. I mean, this is not a mystery. We've had this for decades. I don't like it. I'm Canadian. I think it's weird, but America, You're free to do it.
The way that the word oligarchs is now apparently a slur against rich people. People in power.
It always was. It's a slur back in the day. Back thousands and thousands of years ago. The oligarchy. What is she just figuring this out now? Like what? Maggie, have you ever gone to a library? Like ever? Very strange. I swear I could have learned the word oligarchy from a grade schooler. At least when I was growing up. We would have learned that word.
Power good. Regular people bad.
She just compared herself to Trump. That's amazing.
Like, is it like people in power good, regular people bad, and like reference to her? Maggie, you're crazy. That's why we don't like you.
I know there's that argument behind, whenever you don't understand someone, they think they're nuts. We call them crazy. We know there's a method to her madness. She's not connecting the dots.
Coming in.
She's not explaining herself for us to go, oh, okay, that's where she's coming from. She just compared herself to Trump, guys, as a normal person. Trump is not a normal person. You know who's also not a normal person?
Yeah.
Maggie Mayfish. She is not the spitting image of a normal girl or lady or person on YouTube or otherwise. Okay.
Oh man.
We are trying to talk about the Cats the musical. Not.
And you're talking about weird politics angles that don't have anything to do with it.
Oh God. Okay, John Lemley, here we go. Please be a detour into the war economy. Kojima prepared me for this moment. Yeah, Johnny's like, I'm ready to go, man. Let's talk about PMCs. And the Patriots.
Oh man, like somebody commented in this picture, she looks like the female version of Onision.
Oh really?
Apparently. I don't know. I've never seen Onision. And Joe Crazy said, mercenary work is one of the oldest professions in human history.
Yeah.
I agree with this.
I do know there is a right of...
Message coming in.
Was it writ of...
Patching it through.
Not a writ of conscription, writ of...
Right of passage.
No. In this Constitution, you're allowed to have writs of something. I can't remember the name, but you basically pay off privateers to do your dirty work.
Writ of assistance?
I don't remember, but again, I never studied this, but I remember it being mentioned during an argument about the Constitution.
Mark. Is it letters of mark?
Sorry?
Letters of mark?
Letters of mark. I think that's it. Yeah, where you're allowed to pay off like privateers. The argument was, I don't know, what if there's a pirate ship around
patching it through
the areas of your dock or whatever, like New York Harbor or whatever, and you're not allowed to get rid of them, or there's
message coming in.
Like the president's not allowed to kill other Americans, let's say, but you can pay someone from another country to do your dirty work, and that's like some sort of loophole. It's a weird loophole. I don't know that. Again, do not quote me, please, because I do not know. I seem to recall this though.
I've always thought of letters of marque as basically it's just a pardon / permission for a pirate to basically make war on another country. It doesn't matter what nationality they originally were. It's just, here is your carte blanche to make war on our enemies using piracy.
Exactly, something along those lines. It was a very specific thing and a sign of the times why they put that in. So. And I'm surprised they wouldn't put that in association with PMCs, because it makes sense. It's like, okay, we need to hire security. Our military is not big enough. We need it very specific because it's the Constitution. You can't just make war, but you can hire people to do stuff. So anyway.
Like you don't, or like you see a problem with, like there's way too many pirates, but you don't have enough manpower. So basically, like you say, okay, these pirates over to our side and give some money to these people and say, hey, here's a pardon. You can basically pillage however you want, just not us.
What were they? Letters of marque and reprisal. There they are. Okay, that's what it was called. Anyway, let's not change topics as much as she does. Let's go back. John Lemley, the Lolly Lulelo approved this message. Thank you, John. I'm glad they do. Dr. Martin Luther Pepe. She looks like a female Yanusian and just as loopy. Yeah, that's what...
She's got a weird sock. Her socks have marijuana on it.
Oh, they do they? Yeah. You're right. I thought those are PJs, but you're right. Those are socks as well.
Yeah. It's like sarcastic on said, Smud, can you move the video along? I can't look at her like that anymore.
Now you know how it feels.
That's how it feels.
We've been doing this for months,
I'm a big fan
guys.
of this.
It's pretty painful, I know.
And this body thinking is integral to the poetic grammar of cats.
How did we jump to this?
Are we jumping to a gender binary now? This is this and that is that.
We just finished talking about politics and Trump, and all of a sudden, and this is how it's related to cats. Like, what? That was a paragraph of thought that completely just went over our heads, despite us pausing it and rewinding several times.
Oh my
Can you imagine ending every paragraph in an essay? And that's how it relates to my thesis. We're only 10 minutes in, Dunn. It's been an hour and 16, 17 minutes. This is horrible.
Everything is either this or that. There's no room for nuance, no personality, no complexity.
Who are you talking? What are you even talking about now?
Maybe it's just like she's saying that like there's black and white, gray rather than gray morality, where it's kind of like, or like firmly established gender binaries, or like proletariat is bad and the people in power are good.
Well, no, I get that, but
and that's not a good thing.
In what way is she using it?
I don't know.
She just started talking. I'm like, what are you? What? What is going on?
She'll explain it a little bit. I doubt it.
Patch
like
it
she
through.
didn't explain her daddy's thesis very well.
She better. I don't know what the hell's going on. John Lemley, why are we still here? Just to jump from topic to topic every 45 seconds. Yeah, and the topic change every 2 seconds at the end of your 45 seconds. And that's how it relates to cats. What? Trump and then you? What?
Memory, I'll jog and say a cat is not a dog.
You are ordered to categorize different races. Cats are this, dogs are that. And this order to categorize is told to you as if it's from your own memory. Your memory I will jog. But if it really was a true memory, and if it really was a deeper truth, then we wouldn't need the reminder. This relates back to how fascism pretends to unveil a deeper truth, as if all knowledge is already present in nature. As if there's nothing more to learn, ever.
Truth has already...
I don't... What is going on?
I don't know either.
What are we talking about?
Now we hear the voice of Madam Lindsay Ellis in this.
Oh. Miss Ketchup, what was her name again? What did we give her?
Lindsay Ellis. Lindsay Ellis. I recognize her voice. She's going to be the one reading that quote.
Yeah, no, what did we call her? Miss Ketchup Bottle? I can't recall.
Yeah. Get a ketchup bottle. Let's go with that.
All right.
I think maybe it's just how do we get from like this is that and that is that, a cat is not a dog, which is just like, it's a different species. It's not race related, you weirdo.
been spelled out once and for all, and we can only keep
Well,
interpreting
yeah,
its obscure
Maggie, a cat is
message.
not a
So the
dog.
bigot
Like,
teaches
you are not
you
a sane
bigoted
human.
idea, then gaslights you into thinking that you had that idea first, and that bigotry is simply a naturally occurring truth rather than an ideology. I want to
Wait.
Oh.
What? Where are we going? Maggie? What's happening? Did we lose the story? I'm lost. What are we talking about?
Maybe, okay. Let me try to
Am I going crazy?
interpret this. Let me interpret the crazy for a second. Essentially, what she is saying is because he's saying a cat is not a dog, it's related to race, and because there is kind of saying that it's jogging your memory in the text to kind of gaslight you into thinking bigoted thoughts against other races, even though it's just about cats and dogs. And it's briefly mentioned, and there are no dogs in this show.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Wow, that sounded worse than I thought it would.
How did we get to bigotry, though? Like, what is going on?
Everybody is going like, what? Gosh dang it. That's a mighty book.
You know what this is like? This is like someone having a stream of consciousness, and she uses periods. And when you look at and you read the first sentence, you're like, that's a totally different idea than the next sentence. You circle it. You go, okay, here's another idea. Second sentence. Here's another idea. Third sentence. You just keep going and going. You're like, what is happening?
God.
I'm lost. I don't know what's happening. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Message coming in.
All right.
Patching it through.
We'll try to keep going here. John Lemley, orange mad bad incoming because populism equals fascism. Populism equals fascism? What?
That's what she's arguing, I guess.
I don't know.
So.
Okay. Let's try another one. Yes, things are this or that. Black and white won't make pink or green. I agree. I'm sick of people trying to use complexity as an excuse to dismantle things so that they can take control and establish their own form of normal. You know what? Anyone is free to go because I am lost. I do not know what's happening right now.
Yeah, CW Trixie said, I have no idea what's going on anymore, and I've seen over-the-top anime.
Oh, I've seen XL Saga and a bunch of other weird anime. That at least has a through line. You know that there are characters that are trying to do something. She's just like slamming ideas together. You're like, what? Where? Stop! How?
Everybody's just laughing at the madness or just dying laughing now because this is just insane. This is utterly, utterly insane.
I'm not going to bother rewinding because I don't think it's going to help.
I don't think it is either.
turn to my favorite example of Eliot's criticism.
Message
His
coming
response
in.
to George Orwell's Animal
Patching it through.
Farm. Animal Farm is an animal allegory for Soviet Russia, where violent, tyrannical pigs are stand-ins for Lenin and Stalin. In 1944, Orwell submitted the novel to the publishing house Faber and Faber, where Eliot rejected it for publication, saying,
Your pigs are far more intelligent than the other animals, and therefore the best qualified to run the farm. In fact, there couldn't have been an animal farm at all without them, so that what was needed, some might argue, was not more communism, but more public-spirited pigs.
To Eliot, some people, or pigs, are inherently superior to others and have a God-given right to dominate.
Wait, just slow down.
No, T.S. Eliot is not arguing this. This is not... Okay, so I am very familiar... I'm relatively familiar with how this... with Animal Farm. I've watched the animated movie. I've watched book versus movie comparisons of the newer version and the book. I'm familiar with how this works. The pigs, Old Major is the guy who makes the law. The other animals are not that smart. They mostly just follow along and are following Napoleon, who tosses out
Message coming in.
Squealer because he has him
Patching it
eaten
through.
by dogs.
Okay, so we do know it's...
That's how this works.
we do know it's an allegory, right? Based off the Russian Revolution or whatever she was talking about. That's true. It is an allegory, but that's just an allegory. That's fine. It doesn't have to be taken literally. So his critique is strange. I agree. That is a weird critique. And I don't know why. I mean, this is a very technical critique. It's like, oh, they should be different animals, or the pig should be in charge, yada yada. It's like, okay, fine. That's not something an average editor would say. Definitely not nowadays.
Yeah. I don't know.
Spirited pigs.
To Eliot, some people, or pigs, are inherently superior to others and have a God-given right to dominate. To him, the idea of a dictator isn't
That is
necessarily
not what
bad.
he's saying.
Oh dear.
What the heck? What the heck am I watching?
You know, I have high respect for both of these writers. And Maggie's like just getting her face in there. Well, this is what it's really saying. It's like, well, what? He believes the pig should be in charge. Like, because he's a pig. Like, no.
Some pigs are inherently better than other animals. It's just like, in the book of Animal Farm, the pigs are the movers and drivers of the plot. And pretty much everybody else is a simplistic animal.
Let's keep in mind this is a satire story. It's satirical. Kind of
Rich in irony and most satirical.
right. So, we got some super chats. Thank you, John Lemley. The autism community denies the ability of fish to have streams of consciousness. I don't know. How else could you do this without? Can you imagine writing those sentences down in the order she presented them in, and not being a stream of consciousness? Like, how else would you do it? Like, there's no other way. You can't logically connect all these scenes together, showing pictures of Trump and her, and then jumping into cats. It doesn't make sense. There's no connection. John Lumley, what do the numbers mean, fish? What do they mean?
Sarcastic
This is the
hawk.
right kind of dictator. We don't need those stinky communist pigs. We need royalists or Nazis or fascist pigs. We just need public-spirited pigs, benevolent dictators who we can...
Maggie, it's a satire.
He's just saying that the pig, and I think like Eliot isn't fully understanding that it is a satire. He's kind of just looking at it mechanically more than anything else.
Right. And Maggie, I don't know if she actually read. I hope she did, but it is a satire, so it is supposed to be a joke and poke fun.
She at least watched the animated movie, which is really disturbing movie.
Yeah, no, it's not the greatest pick me up story of the year. No, it's very that's what this is about. So yeah, it's pretty brutal. So that's kind of the point, though. That's why Orwell is very big on that sort of depiction of power and abuse of power, whether it's 1984 or this. So that's kind of what Orwell does. And maybe Eliot didn't quite grasp that or didn't care for that or whatever. But for her to argue that, we don't need communist pigs, it's like, well, yeah, that was the point. That was the whole point of the story. If it was a monarchy, that wouldn't be the same thing, now would it, Maggie?
If you want critique on monarchy and feudalism, Ice and Fire, even though you'll be screaming sexism.
Yeah. I think there's something wrong with every kind of male-oriented political story out there, even the satirical ones. She probably wouldn't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. White guy wrote it. Oh, he's bashing communism. Uh-oh. Wait, Ayn Rand did that too. Oh, she's bad too. Okay.
And total without question. And then hope that they're nice to us filthy normies. We just need a kindly old Deuteronomy. Reincarnate me, Daddy, meow.
What?
Reflecting on Eliot's criticism of Orwell, I can't help but think more about the words authoritarian and dictator, and how, in an extremely literal sense, those terms describe someone who authors or dictates national politics and culture. We see this in real time
Message
every
coming
day.
in.
When a reporter asks Donald
Patching it
Trump a
through.
question, the question is worded as, "Do you take responsibility?"
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
He gets to define the terms and even define the limits and responsibilities of his own office, apparently. Similarly, Eliot was trying to be a kind of dictator of literature, controlling what kinds of emotions and ideas were allowed to be represented. And that's why the Western canon is so white and male. Bigots like Eliot
What?
have engaged in an ethnic cleansing campaign on literature for centuries. Hey, George Orwell, do you have any criticisms of Eliot you'd like to share? Oh, you do? Okay, cool. In the early 1940s, Eliot published a set of 4 poems called the 4 Quartets. A fragment from those poems were adapted into the song The Moments of Happiness in Cats. Orwell just happened to write a review of 4 quartets. In order for this to make complete sense, it helps to know that Marshal Pétain was a French officer who the Nazis put in charge of Vichy France during World War II as a puppet of Nazi Germany. So Orwell writes,
Obviously, a skepticism about democracy and a disbelief in progress are an integral part of Eliot. Without them, he could not have written a line of his works. But the negative Pétainism, which turns its eyes to the past, accepts defeat, writes off earthly happiness as impossible, mumbles about prayer and repentance, and thinks it's a spiritual advance to see life as a pattern of living worms in the guts of the women of Canterbury. That surely is the least hopeful road a poet could take.
Eliot's poetry was such a bummer that even George Orwell, who went on to write 1984, was like, dude, lighten up. And Orwell is getting to an idea that I mentioned earlier. Eliot was a poet who refused to use his imagination to imagine a better world. Orwell's writing says, stuff sucks, but it could and should be better. Eliot's writing
Whoa. Okay, let's say that, I don't know, Eliot does not have this great
A
imagination.
lot of crazy.
Let's just
There's
say
a
that.
lot of crazy in 2 minutes.
Yeah. What does Orwell do? He goes the opposite direction and uses imagination to think of the worst possible scenarios.
It's like rule of contrast. It could be this, folks, but it's not.
Yeah, that's kind of why it's almost a horror story in and of itself. Most of his stories are kind of like that. So that's, I mean, would you want him to write like Orwell? His stuff is pretty profound to begin with and pretty dry, but it still makes you think. And it's not just stories, but in general. So I don't see what the big deal is. Yeah, they have creative differences. Which writers don't? I'm reading Dunn's book right now. I don't think it's all that amazing. I don't think it's horrible. But I'm reading it and I'm criticizing it. What's wrong with that?
Speaking of which, Inquisitor Matthias said, I want her to critique Dunn's book.
Oh,
Which
yeah?
one?
Yeah, pick anyone. It's fine.
Yeah. I would love to see her thoughts on Tempest of Shadow or Rise of the Dark Queen. I would be like, oh, come on, baby. Let's see what you got. I will happily debate you.
Obviously, you're a fascist or fasci. You're a light fascist or whatever.
That's a problem, and that's a problem. Why? Would be my question.
Everyone's a fascist nowadays. Who knows?
That's a problem. Why?
Anyway, that is not what he said, Fish. He was not asking for more Yahtzee picks. She is interpreting this argument between these two writers as there's some weird political struggle. It's like, no, they're just a writer and a critic.
Oh. So that's kind of just the thing is. Also, the thing is, like, every author on the face of the planet has their intellectual adversaries. Like, in academic, that's prevalent, where, like, academics will go back and forth, or, like, they'll just be like, oh, I really hate this take on history, or I hate this take on, like, science, and they'll just go back and forth. And it's just critiques after critiques when they just, like, see, like, the weaknesses in each other's arguments, or, like, a flawed interpretation of something.
That's
just how it is.
Very common in education, in university, whether it's poetry, prose, science, pick any field. You're going to have an argument from someone. So nothing spectacular here. It is interesting to hear it, though. But other than that, no, it's not that great a revelation.
Says, stuff sucks, so how about you just go and die now, you worthless nobody?
He didn't say that. Oh my God, he's not existential. Oh jeez, like what are you even saying here?
Multiple crazy things. Let's just let her hang herself somewhere.
As I live in extreme comfort and absolute privilege. And to put this in context, Orwell wrote his criticism in 1942 as World War II was raging in Europe. As ethnic minorities, LGBTQIA people, and political prisoners were being rounded up and sent to concentration.
Yeah, there's big population of the LGBTQ in 1943. Okay.
Camps. Just as Eliot thought that the true tragedy of World War I was the decline of European aristocracy,
They hated Jews.
apparently he
They
saw
also
World War
didn't
II
like
not
people
as
who
a
were
horrific
outside the
attack on
norm.
democracy by authoritarians, but rather as an opportunity for the newly democratic governments that he hated to roll over so that Hitler and Mussolini could bring about a world order that more closely resembled his royalist fantasies. Isn't it wild that this video started out being about cats and we've ended up here?
Yeah, you're insane. That's why. Oh my God, she's
Yeah,
self-aware. Can you imagine writing an essay and then you're writing to your professor or your TA and you're like, hey, person reading this essay, isn't it weird how I completely changed the topic on you? Yes, stop that. Jeez.
I don't get this. This is insane.
She's aware she's doing it and she's making it a... Is this self-deprecating humor? Is this... I mean, like, how stupid are you? How do you go from A to B and not connect the dots? What purpose does it solve?
Message coming in. Patching it through.
I just... Like, this is why this is her worst video. She's rambling. Like she normally does.
Yeah.
This is disconnected ramble. This is like, I'm going to talk about Hitler. Like, why?
Oh, just wait for her like Fight Club video.
Here's Tyler Preston for a donation. Thank you, sir. Here's a word-for-word quote from Maggie May Fish's Twitter. Having great sex every night, then waking up to news about fascism is like putting on my own private production of cabaret or cabaret. What? There should be an accent aigu on the... Well, she's missing an E, but cabaret.
Right, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what cabaret.
I think it's like is it cabaret is it kind of dance, I believe.
Yes, that's
kind
very, very French, very leggy dance. Yeah.
Great sex every night, then finding out about fascism. Like what? I'm just press X to doubt. Press X to doubt.
People have sex with Maggie May Fish. I mean, you could do worse physically, I guess. To each their, to each their.
I am not sticking my dick in.
Yeah, well, that was the obvious. Come on, that was too easy.
Yeah.
All right. So cats are Nazis. Where is this going? Yeah, we've lost the plot, guys. I have no idea where we're going now. Even she's admitting to it. Yeah, she hurts herself in confusion. I don't think she's hurting herself. I think she's just looking in the mirror after realizing what she's done and going, "Oh, I'm doing this now." Ha ha ha. It's kind of like running around the asylum and then looking in a mirror going, "Oh, I'm crazy. That's weird. Let's keep running."
Yeah. Message coming in.
Definitely.
Patching it through.
Here's Mariner1712. If you want a fun, trippy fourth wall writing story, check out episode 22.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Of Ultraman Max. Is that an anime?
I've never heard of it.
I don't know that one. Harpoons can target better game. Oh, that was the wrong. That was the wrong diss to make on Maggie May Fish. I don't think. Yeah, she's pretty thin. To her credit, she is pretty thin.
Yeah.
All right.
It's an amazing
Message
example
coming in.
of how someone's personal
Patching it
beliefs
through.
are ever present in their writing. Eliot was highly aware of that fact, actually, when he wrote this in his 1927 essay, A Note on Poetry and Belief.
I cannot see that poetry can ever be separated from something which I should call belief.
And he repeated that sentiment in The Use of Poetry and Use of Criticism.
One's taste in poetry cannot be isolated from one's other interests and passions.
That's fascinating, because when you talk about poetry, you're talking about your emotional reaction to thoughts, and you're expressing that in an intellectual manner. So you kind of see the world in a very romanticized way. And whether you express that is different, is up to the person. And then once you do, you are a poet. So I've had family members express themselves in poetry before, whether they're talking about their family or life or this or that. It is hard to disconnect yourself from your use of language to communicate ideas, especially when you start doing it romantically or with emotion. That's not impossible, but Eliot's going, well, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I connect ideas. He's so ensconced in it that he can't do it any other way. He can't think outside of the techniques he's done it, which is fine, okay? There's nothing wrong with visualizing and dramatizing the world in your own way. That's fine, especially in poetry, because it's supposed to be poetic. It's supposed to be romanticized.
Like, my interests are directly connected with my writing. I like what I want. I write what I like to read, and that's just what I do.
Yeah, you're not going to suddenly start, I don't know, writing about the engineering manifold of a certain battleship from 1920 or something. It's like, you could, but you know, you
do it with sword construction,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to do it with battleship.
You would have to study engineering and old ships and what they did back then and all this other crap, but you don't want to. There's no reason to. That's, again, totally fine.
Of course, like any good fascist sympathizer, Eliot was...
Oh, just, oh, I want to just hit her with a book. I don't care. Any book will do.
You can hit her with mine. Mine's pretty thick.
Yeah.
also a master. Here's Eliot responding to criticisms of his poetry, The Wasteland, by claiming, it doesn't really mean anything, and you're all reading too much into it.
Various critics have done me the honor to interpret The Wasteland in terms of criticism of the contemporary world, have considered it, indeed, as an important bit of social criticism. To me, it was only the relief of a personal and wholly insignificant grouse against life. It is just a piece of rhythmical grumbling.
That's the early 20th century version of keep your politics out of my video games. Eliot
Wait. How do you get that?
It's basically like me. It's basically like I'm writing, say, a book where I like brutally kill a character that has a religious bent. It's basically like saying like, oh, B. Malachi Dunn hates religion. It's like, no, I'm Mormon. Sawed off. That's not how this works. It's just I have a personal, I either want to tell this story or I have a personal beef against a particular person who happens to have this particular like worldview that I feel is either factually accurate or is disingenuous.
It's kind of strange for a writer to say, you know, that thing I did, I didn't really think about it. I just did it because whatever. And the critics are going crazy. He's like, yeah, I don't care. That's all he really said. And somehow Fish is equating this to keep politics out of video games. I don't even see the connection. I don't know where I don't.
He's just saying, I didn't intend it this way. And he's saying, did me the honor of this.
Yeah.
But I was saying like, no, I was just writing it in this way, like, because I needed some way to vent. There wasn't really much else to it. He's not saying keep politics out of my work. He's saying like there just wasn't. He's just saying like why he wrote it and what his process was.
And we don't know the actual piece of story or writing he did, so it could have actually been political for all we know. So it's just it's like when you write a poem or you write a short story, you don't think about it, you just do it, and someone criticizes the hell out of it, and you're like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. You don't care. That's pretty much it. If this is a very odd take, I don't know how she equated this to politics and video games, but again, this is Maggie Mae Fish, guys. Everything is politics to her. Everything.
So it's just like fascist sympathizer.
That was insulting. That was every time she does bullshit like that, I just like, oh, you stop it.
You sick-minded person. Somebody cart you away to an asylum. I love what Criminal Imagination said. Keep your insane ramblings out of my fiction. Yeah, I think that's a better argument than that's what people are saying. Keep your insane ramblings out of my fiction is like a better summation of what people are arguing than keep your politics out of my video games or like stuff.
Claims that you cannot force your poetry from your beliefs, but then also refuses to allow that same kind of interpretation of his own work. The rules.
When did he say that? When did he say that? When does he not allow people to read his work in a different light?
He's just stating what his mindset was when he wrote it. He's not saying they're wrong. You weirdo.
Not apply to the king. Of course, his poetry is political because all art is political.
Oh, fuck off. That's now I'm mad. Okay. Anytime anyone says that, fuck you. All art is not political. Shut the hell up. Who taught you that? Where did you learn this? Who was the teacher that poisoned your mind? How did this happen?
Yeah. And my perspective on that is like, let's burn them at the stake of ideas. Just roast them mercilessly.
If a kid if someone like a child is playing in the sand or with crayons, that's not political. I'm sorry. He's just having fun. And we can say writing is a more intellectual format of kids playing in the sand, if you will. It doesn't have to be political. It can. Spy thrillers can be political, but they don't have to be. Star Wars can be political, but it doesn't have to be. There's all these silly things that people say.
Is Brandon Sanderson's work political? Robert Jordan's work political? Is George R. R. Martin's work political? Is David Eddings' work political?
We always use the example of The Room because we know it's a badly put together film or script and production. And we're like, what is the political message of The Room? I don't think there is one. I don't think there is anything to do with the government in any capacity at all.
Same with Sharknado.
Yeah, what is that?
Like, if Sharknado has politics in it, we missed it when we were watching it because it's just, what on earth is happening?
How is Jurassic Park political? What is the government have anything to do with a private individual on his own island doing whatever the hell he wants? It's
genetically engineered frog clones that he's made to look like pictures of dinosaurs.
It's
it's like he knows his ideas are awful, but instead of interrogating why he feels this way, he runs from his emotions.
It's like you're an idiot and you're saying stupid shit. There, I fixed it for you.
Oh man, this is so funny.
So bad.
Like in that earlier quote where Eliot said,
"Poetry is not a turning loose of emotions, but an escape from emotion."
What are you trying to escape from, man? In that
emotion. He just said it.
Oh, this is a good question. How is Monty Python political?
Well, it's satirical, so usually satire is used to make fun of government agencies or whatever, but not inherently. Monty Python is just a comedy troupe. They can make fun of anything they like. Oh boy.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Gotta get some water here. John Lemley, I love how The Room discusses the implications of fiat currency and isolationism. That's funny, Mark. Huh?
What a story, Mark, talking about a guy who beat up a girl.
Oh, God.
That's not funny, you sick weirdo.
You're my favorite fascist dictator, Tommy.
I love that movie so much. It's so funny. It's so funny. Oh man, this is great. We got more crazy to go through, and we've been at this for 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
Same essay makes this weird argument about how we need to depersonalize poetry. He gives an example from chemistry, where he compares a poet to a bar of platinum. Eliot describes the metal, or poet, as inert, neutral, unchanged. He desperately wants to remain unaffected by anything, which is basically the equivalent of turning off your humanity?
No.
What the hell is the point of poetry if your goal is to remain unaffected?
That expression, you've already had all of the emotion drained of you. You're now just recording the event in a very romantic way. So it's common sense to you to actually express yourself. You don't need catharsis because you're already mature enough to deal with whatever emotions you've dealt with. And now you're writing the words in a very flowery manner, style. Why not? You're a poet. That's what you do.
He's writing to vent.
There's so many reasons why someone does something artistically. Like, who cares? Like, who am I to judge a man that he doesn't get it? He doesn't have, I don't know, a personal reaction to his poetry. Who cares? What do I care?
So Cats with his thing.
Yeah, Cats. What about Cats there, Maggie? Why are we putting a bar of platinum on your caricature of T.S. Eliot? What are you trying to say?
He sees emotions as toxic chemicals, and he's dressed himself up in an emotional hazmat suit to avoid ever feeling anything. And after shielding himself, he turns around and uses literary criticism as a baseball bat to beat the emotion out of any poem or novel unfortunate enough to be viewed by his cold, dead eyes. Because if Eliot doesn't feel it, those emotions must be perverse.
That is not the argument, you weirdo.
Can you imagine her attacking any other art form or any other artist? You'd be like, are you out of your mind? This is not what T.S. Eliot is doing. This is not how he's thinking. This is not how he's feeling. You cannot know the mental state or emotion of a dead man. Or any person for that matter. You're not a telepath. You're not an empath. You can't sense feelings and thoughts. You don't have the deductive skills of a Sherlock person who could, who's that? The guy from Auguste Dupin. Like, you don't have that intelligence. I'm sorry. Very few people do. And to characterize T.S. Eliot that way is insulting. Do that to any person. How would they like it? You're clearly a fascist. Like, no. How could you not feel anything from writing? It's sad. This is pathetic.
Yeah, this is terrible. This is weird.
It's like me telling Dunn, you know what, you have no emotion in your writing, therefore you're an emotionless statue. There's no feeling and thoughts behind your ideas. Like, what? Like, excuse me?
Be like, so? Be like, my answer is, so what?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like, what does it matter what you think about my person? What I had for lunch and how it made me feel. I wrote a sentence down. I felt nothing. Oh my God, you're a monster. Like, what?
Andrew Lloyd Webber also denies the deeper meaning behind his own work. Theater director Harold Prince recalled the moment when Webber first played the score of Cats for him, saying,
I looked at him curiously and said, Andrew, I don't understand. Is this about English politics?
What?
Wow. And now we've gone over the line.
I need some water for this one. Oh my god.
Oh man.
So this is someone on his team, I guess, asking what the hell's going on, and he's like, "Dude, it's a story about cats. What are you doing? Stop it."
It's a book about weird cat. It's a weird murder cult of cats where alone and dies.
It's a musical called Cats. Okay. Why are you a weirdo? Do you know what words mean? See those people dressed up as cats? What do you think they are? Yeah, you got it.
This looks like A Wrinkle in Time, where it's just a psychedelic drug trip, only the movie is worse because it adds more weird Uncanny Valley CGI that just where the face is off, and it's just like, yeah, this is ugly. This is ugly.
So even with people you work with, they're confused. They try to read too much into something without seeing what something is worth in the surface and not realizing that's all there is to it. That's fine. Happens to the best of us. So not a big deal.
So, Cat's Queen Victoria, Prime Minister Gladstone, and Prime Minister Disraeli. He looked at me like I lost my mind, and after the longest pause said, "Hal, this is just about cats."
But in this behind-the-scenes video from The Cats, the musical YouTube channel, Weber straight up says that you cannot understand Cats without understanding the source material of Eliot's work.
Really, when Cats really works at its best, it's when we remember the central premise of T.S. Eliot's writing.
So if the central premise of Eliot's writing is a miserable anti-humanism that resembles...
Oh, God. Yeah, let's all read T.S. Eliot to understand cats better. You don't have to, guys. Or characterize T.S. Eliot in the most bizarre way.
The ideas of a Nazi stooge. If his writing contains anti-progressive misogyny and blatant royalism, then what does Weber think he's saying by adapting Eliot's writing into Cats?
I don't know. Read the work and make your own goddamn mind up. Holy jeez.
Where is he saying the progressivism is bad?
Or that
get where she's from,
or that the monarchy is some holier than thou institution or something. It's like in his poem about cats, I don't. Oh God, this lady.
Remember the central premise of T.S. Eliot's writing.
In his 1920 essay, Hamlet and His Problems, spoiler alert, T.S. Eliot thinks that the most celebrated Shakespeare play has many problems.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Kind of does. It's basically a dude whining about his Oedipal complex.
It's not perfect. It's great. It's a classic, but it's not perfect. The language barrier is one thing, and that's English, Old English. So, I mean, there's lots to interpret there on language itself, let alone the topics they're in. So, yeah, I don't mind T.S. Eliot taking a swipe at Shakespeare. Why not?
Eliot argues that every emotion in a work of art must correlate to a specific material object or a set of physical actions in that work. He calls his theory the objective correlative, since...
Oh no, here we go. The object is the symbol of target or affection of the male, whereas the subject is... Oh dear.
Yeah.
I can't even make fun of that anymore. It's so dumb.
Patrick Williams actually did a thing on Austin Powers, how it predicted the future, and I'm interested to see that.
That might be actually entertaining, yeah. in the wrong reasons it should be entertaining, but still.
Yeah.
Wow, so emotion should be based on objects. What a complex idea there, Maggie. Never heard of that idea before.
the object must correlate to an emotion. He argues that if there's no concrete metaphor, then the emotions aren't valid and the piece of art will be a failure. As if emotions and poetry are somehow objects or tools to be used for a specific job.
Yeah. What's wrong with having objects represent things? Or characters having objects that mean things to them, emotionally even.
Why is she bringing up Austin Powers and the frickin' Sex Mojo?
Oh God! It always comes down to sex for her, so I guess it's some weird Freudian thing she's obsessed with. All right, Tyler Preston, thanks for the donation. Okay, it's clear that Maggie has never heard of a cigar as just a cigar because she's reading way too much into this. Now I want to see Miss Fish by explaining all the political messages in Power Rangers. Oh, dear.
It'll be something about, like, Japanese or Chinese internment camps or whatever.
No, it's going to be the nuclear bomb represents the big kaiju, or the giant characters, because it's inspired by the bombing of Hiroshima, which is clearly Americans attacking imperialism and the I don't know, the aristocracy in charge of the world order and all this other bullshit. You're like, okay.
I have his Joe.
Instead of things to be felt to enrich your life. Eliot's opinion on emotions also reminds me...
Why does everything have to enrich your life? I don't get it. Why can't you just have a pretty poem or a pretty painting?
Why are you bringing Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, arguably the worst movie of all time, into this?
Because religious people are bad, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm religious. Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas is freaking awful. It's like
undescribably bad.
Awful.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really bad. And the Santa guy looks like he's a psychopath. Like when they have like Saint Nick, flashback to Saint Nick as Kirk Cameron's explaining why Saint Nick is a viable part of Christmas to the world's dumbest person. It's like, I need to go deliver some presents to some children, and he has a face like Brad Jones playing a serial killer. Freaking weird.
All right. John Lemley, hashtag Freud did nothing wrong. I don't know. I don't know the entire history of Freud. But,
oh, man. Oh, Joe Crazy.
Okay, I'm going to read this. No, Dunn. Obviously, Power Rangers is about the morality of using child soldiers and the true meaning of teenagers with attitude.
Oh, man. We should watch Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas for a Smud movie night sometime.
We got to do the Terminator first, then we got to do our next film, which is going to be the B movies or the bad ones. So we alternate, right? Good then bad, good then bad.
We'll watch it during Christmas time, just to get into the festival season. And since this is unironically an extremely capitalist movie where he literally says, we are celebrating God giving his material body to us by giving each other material things.
Oh, that's symbolic, I guess?
Yeah. So bring out your finest ham.
Really?
Don't pay all that money to charities. Just give it to yourself.
Spend all the money you have. Because you're giving Jesus Christ to your family or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Of Kirk Cameron, who conveniently sees physical objects as proof of God's love.
This is a celebration of the eternal God taking on a material body. So it's right that our holiday is marked with material things.
Eliot argues that Hamlet is an absolute failure of a play because there is no object that correlates to Hamlet's feeling of existential dread. Which is kind of funny because the absence of a symbolic object is kind of the perfect metaphor for existential dread, but that's besides the point. Since we already know that...
I guess you know a lot about existentialism there, Maggie, I guess.
Well, I'm glad that I accurately represented Kirk Cameron's quote right before it came up.
Yeah, let's try and remember Hamlet was a story of revenge.
Message coming in.
With all kinds of other things in it. So when Hamlet is pontificating about his existence and what it means to be alive, it's a very specific scene after a lot has happened.
Yeah. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well.
John Lemley. Also, Power Rangers touches on racism and how some people internally and externally hate certain colors. Yeah, that's true.
Like the Red Ranger.
The Red Ranger. Bastard.
Yeah, it's always a dude, and it's always usually white or black. There aren't any Native American Red Rangers that I'm aware of.
Eliot is scared of his own emotions and that he's a bootlicking royalist. It becomes clear that Eliot's hatred of Hamlet is actually rooted in the play's radical question.
Hi, Glib.
Yo.
Oh, dear. Glib, we're almost done.
I just dropped in because I was listening. I was eating fried chicken. I was eating sandwiches, French fries, mac and cheese, sympathizing with fascism. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, good Lord, sir. We have gone through the ringer so far. Now she's trying to say that Hamlet's bad because T.S. Eliot doesn't like the monarchical elements in it, I think.
I don't understand the criticism, but I think it's funny that T.S. Eliot is saying that about Hamlet when everybody knows Hamlet for holding up the skull, which is the representation of mortality. So what does he mean by object? That seems to be the object that represents the existential dread.
Right.
Alas, poor Yorick. Everybody remembers that. Nobody remembers anything else.
Well, that's one specific scene, and the whole play is not about existential dread. It's about revenge and trying to kill your uncle and this and that. So there's other things in the story. There's all kinds of things in the story. So that is like just one sliver of all these beautiful scenes. And Hamlet is known for many beautiful scenes. That's why it's so memorable. It's not just the York scene. So she's just latching onto this thing very strongly. And I have nothing against T.S. Eliot attacking or criticizing Hamlet or Shakespeare or poetry as a whole. It's her interpretation of that which is scary. But you sit back and how did you get there? How did you understand that? Is he likes monarchy, now he doesn't like it because it's Hamlet? I don't get it.
You don't have to like every monarchy. Maybe you like one of them. I don't know.
According to Fish, he loves the monarchy. He loves everything about the divine right of kings and this and that. And you're like, okay, well, apparently not.
I can understand being English and being a monarchist, especially during this time. Or any European nation or any nation that had a monarchy that they were proud of. Absolutely.
Even in Canada, we look to our motherland, England, in a form of reverence, but we don't think of them as a form of guidance. We don't say, oh, wow, if only we had a monarchy in Canada. We don't really ever think that way, I don't think. But it's just nice to know where you come from. It's like, oh, wow, we share roots with, at least politically, with this other group of people who have been there for thousands of years. That's a beautiful thing. It's not a scary thing. It's not a disgusting thing. It's not like, oh, we're under the thumb of the monarch. It's like, no, we had Confederation. We were independent. The Queen's like, yeah, sure. It's great. Little less bloody than the Americans, but that's cool. Everyone's got their own.
I think it mattered much more back at the time that he was alive, especially when there was actually things for nobles and monarchs to do. They actually had a hand in the ruling over their country. That was an interesting time period, and it was much easier to be a monarchist or a royalist back then.
Oh, definitely. We have some aristocracy in Toronto, even downtown. There's a historical site called Casaloma. The owner wanted to attract the royals from the UK to come down and visit. He had like all these. It was like when we had like the China room, so all these ornate little pieces of furniture and wallpaper that maybe a royal might have liked if they had ever went on a trip around the world. Oh, maybe they might like a China room. They had all these other ornate things from where he desperately wanted to be part of this royal group of people from across the aisle, which was interesting. But he settled in Toronto, which was a fascinating story of why we still have this. Lots of movies get filmed in Casaloma too. I know I've been there a few times professionally for functions, so it's interesting how our relationship with our originators of our country came about. But it's all just pomp and circumstance. It's all just silly little things to impress others, as you would expect from the rich, and that's fine. But it's not a big deal as Maggie is making out to be. But I still, again, we have to listen to her argument first before we make a judgment. But so far, we've been let down a lot. Anyway.
Questioning of the cosmic order, its doubt in the existence of an afterlife, and its violent conclusion where the entire royal family is slaughtered. Now compare Hamlet to Eliot's favorite Shakespeare play, Coriolanus. Coriolanus is a story of a successful Roman general who has become so popular, he's pretty much assured to be elected consul, one of the state's highest political offices. But Coriolanus despises commoners, and only runs for consul because his controlling mother pressures him into it. He hates the poor so much, he can't even be polite to them long enough to get elected.
Accurate.
Why should the people give one that speaks thus their voice? I'll give my reasons more worthier than their voices!
The Romans exile Coriolanus for his insults, so he turns traitor and joins the enemy Volsci army to march on Rome for the final confrontation. Eliot hates the play where the main character questions the nature of royalty, and he loves the play where the main character takes a steaming dump on democracy. But Eliot's love of Coriolanus is also fascinating because I think Eliot misses the actual point of the play. The character Coriolanus isn't just portrayed as being anti-democracy. Shakespeare goes out of his way to show us that there is something fundamentally wrong with Coriolanus' emotional state, that his wrath is a perversion of nature. Early in the play, Valeria, a friend of Coriolanus' wife and mother, says that she saw Coriolanus' son catch a beautiful butterfly. The boy teased the insect for a while, then put it between his teeth and ripped it apart. Coriolanus' mother responds by saying, "On one's father's moods," which means, just like his dad. Much later in the play, as Daddy Coriolanus is headed for Rome at the head of the Volsci army, the terrified Romans describe Coriolanus as someone who is just as eager to murder little insects as he is to murder his fellow Romans. Coriolanus' lack of empathy and his lust for violence against a lower class is an ideology that's teachable, and he's passed it down to his own son. I wonder what type of children's books Coriolanus reads to his son at night. Speaking of emotionally unwell characters eating bugs, you might have seen this clip going around on Twitter because it's horrifying. And while it may seem like just another random, hilarious clip from this weird movie, the lyrics are pulled almost verbatim from Eliot's poetry. She thinks that the cockroaches just need employment to prevent them from idle and wanton destroyment. So she's formed from a lot of disorderly louts, a troop of well-disciplined, helpful Boy Scouts. It's like conservative propaganda in poem form. Cockroach is a term
What the hell is she talking about?
To describe various ethnic minorities and immigrants. And this series...
Whoa. Ouch. Dang.
I severely regret joining this club.
Yeah.
I immediately regret this decision.
We just jumped from Coriolanus and the downfall, or the historical retelling of a guy who was so aristocratic that he decided with his enemies in a war, to cats and eating roaches.
All because
and
of
immigrants.
Well,
immigrant hate.
She started off with the son of destroying a butterfly, and now we're seeing other forms of insects. It's like, oh, really? You're drawing that connection because there's a character who kills bugs. And yeah, now we're magically back at cats. It's fair. This is just how she does it. She's been doing this all night with, what was the other example? Oh my God. Trump is not like me, therefore it's like cats. You're like, wait, how did that connect? So yeah, she's doing some really crazy backwards logic here. I don't know if people know Coriolanus. It's definitely not the most famous of.
It's a very obscure one. It's one of his weirder ones. Like, people know Henry IV parts 1 and 2, and Henry V more than they know Coriolanus.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's still a tragedy. I'm trying to remember it myself.
Titus Andronicus is technically more
memorable,
famous than this because it's basically Shakespeare's exploitation film play.
Yeah, there's lots of crazy dismemberment and turning people into pies and what have you. So
rape
for sure. Yeah,
mutilation.
It's the goriest for sure. Coriolanus is just your basic tragedy with a character who's so focused, almost like a Macbeth or a Hamlet or a King Lear, but he's like just purely for the military, and he believes in this one thing, and that's his downfall. It's a simple story in comparison to the grandiosity of a Hamlet or a Macbeth. So it probably does not resonate as well because it is militaristic in that fashion, but I mean, it's still a tragedy. So to each their own. What do you enjoy?
By the way, it's really funny that they did a Cessio Plebis where they just left. They pulled an Ayn Rand on the Romans. All of the plebs just decided, all right, we're leaving the city and we're leaving the patricians. They're not going to give us rights. We're not going to give them anything. That's Atlas Shrugged in reverse.
Well, I don't think she picked up on that element. This is very specific, very narrow-minded interpretation of T.S. Eliot's reaction. This is his favorite play. Anyone can. I like Taming of the Shrew. Other people like Much Ado About Nothing. Other people like other comedies by Shakespeare for their own personal reasons. That's the beauty of a great author. There's all these little details that you remember for whatever reason, and you like it more. And that's fine. T.S. Eliot can have his own opinion, and that's fine. He has his own nuances and appreciation of verse and stanzas and poetry and all these other things. That's fine. How we got from killing a butterfly to cats eating roaches, I don't know.
And also like that it's related to like immigrant hatred. That's conservative propaganda of how like immigrants are cockroaches.
Yeah,
and they're disorderly terrible louts, I guess. About what you think, that says more about you than it says about the person writing it, Miss Fish. It's just like Joshua David Bell is a secret skinhead Nazi who hides behind progressive politics in his own writing. That's the only like way I can kind of justify, like, how can you possibly think this way? Oh, you're a Nazi. You are an actual Nazi because you think this way. You have stated that you think that King Kong is a representation of black propaganda, anti-black propaganda, where the black where the ape is a representation of a black rapist in the 1930s.
Oh no, here comes that big ape. He's gonna fuck my daughter. Straight out of the jungle. Look at the size of him.
Unironically, yes.
It's like getting. It's like having the most in the gutter mindset and thinking that you're clever because you pick up on that interpretation of it. And it's like, God, you're just dragging us down to the lowest level with all these commentary, with all this commentary.
Of lines reads as a list of negative stereotypes, that minorities are lazy and jobless, that they're prone to violence and crime. Plus, they're a pool of people seen as exploitable for military recruitment. What's most upsetting about this whole scene, though, is Jenny Anydots' joy. Hooper and Weber may or may not be aware of it, but there is something fundamentally wrong with Jenny Anydots' emotional state. And no, it is not the unzipping of the skin. I grew up on SpongeBob. Unzipping your skin to reveal more skin and then doing it again to reveal a third layer of skin isn't weird to me. It just makes sense. I would do it every day if I could. Sorry. No.
Wow.
It looks weird.
Okay, cats can do that apparently. Thank you, Maggie. I'm glad you agree with the weirdness of the film. That's totally fine. Why you had to react that strongly about it, I'm not sure.
She's unzipping her skin, which looks like it's skin tight, and then right underneath it is this weird dress thing. It's apparently been there the whole time.
We know it's a weird film. We can, if you like weird psychedelic surrealistic films or whatever, fine. That's totally fine, and you can appreciate it for being weird. I can get that. It's her passionate acceptance of it and defense is a little like, okay, that's, you don't have to get behind the skin thing too much there, Miss Fish. I'm sure you love it, but like she just jumps. It's hard to follow her sometimes.
Is seeing Jenny Anydots casually eat her own entertainment. We see just how disposable these commoners are. She swallows them without a second thought, with no regard for their inferior insect lives. More than maybe any—
Wait a second. Is she trying to tell us that because there are tiny little people who are insects that are food for the cats, that we have to think about them as being people, and therefore this character is a horrible thing because she's dancing around them and being entertaining? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. Criminal imagination. Stop talking. Just stop. Edit that crap out.
This is what the cats eat, right? I don't know. Do they eat anything else?
I have no idea. It looks like they're eating cake.
Yeah, it looks like there's cockroaches on a cake or something like that. So that's a bad thing? Where do we draw the line with where do we draw the line with violence and characterization of characters? Like, it's just like, okay, the dancing cockroaches are people as well, but they have no story. So they're not really people. They're not even characters. They're just things that look like people, because everything looks like a person here. Cats look like, there's no dogs. They're just cats, right?
And also just the weird faces on top of the humanoid cockroaches just looks really creepy and just way down the uncanny valley.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a weird looking, even the musical is weird to watch. I've never seen it, but the various clips I've seen over the years is like,
photos are weird.
Yeah, no, it's strange to see a person prance around in a leotard and look like a cat and this and that. That's fine, but that's part of
I think that plays to kids a lot, like that to theater kid types. They're like, oh my god, I love cats, and like, oh, it's so cool, they're creative, look at, they're jumping around and they're doing cat stuff. Like, I get it. I totally get why that was popular, but it was like the bane of musical theater for a long time. That and then Rent, you know, it's like there's always one musical that's just all the theater kids are like, oh my god, let's do that one. Yeah, come on guys, let's do it.
Same with Jesus Christ Superstar, like the nude scene is like, oh, it's so edgy, you know. It's like, it's not that big a deal.
It's like when they're like edgy ballet, sexy ballet. No, I don't care. It's still ballet. It's passé by thousands of years, millions of years. It's already been out of style.
The other scene in
the funny thing was that what's his name? Andrew Lloyd Webber she mentioned a clip where she's saying if you really appreciate cats, you have to listen to the work by T.S. Eliot. You're like, that's true, but no one in their right mind is doing that.
No.
Entire film.
He is a genius though at being able to figure out what people are going to want to see. I'm not saying I enjoy his work or find him very interesting or whatever, but he's one of those guys that just knows his audience.
Oh, this is true. He is a genius. I remember my music teacher and myself looking at, because we have recitals and he had other students and they wanted to do Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis pieces, and it was like, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I hate his music. He's like, you know what? So do I. Like, he pulled some sheet music out. It's so boring. Like, da 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 da. Like, that's the whole song. Da 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 da. It's like, It's very simplistic, and that's why it's easy to consume. Kids can sing along. It's pop culture operettas, pretty much.
That's the problem with theater these days. It's all fucking Lion King on stage.
Yep.
It's all Shrek or whatever. Spider-Man Live. It's a bunch of brand crap.
It's basically for hipsters.
Right. If you actually go to like Roy Thompson Hall's midnight performances, they might have like some guy from REM come in and the violinist from the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. They do beautiful, like I went to a few of those. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. To get an actual opera ticket is tough. Like it's not nowadays really tough, but that's the beautiful stuff. Like the really like Mozart and Tchaikovsky and all these other great operettas out there. But
Tchaikovsky's great.
But trying to find someone to go with you is another story. So it's not for everyone nowadays, just because of pop culture, because we have so much media, so many things going on.
Well, everybody's a degenerate now. They're you know what I mean? The most popular thing is, wet ass pussy. And you're like, all right, well, that's not a theater. No one's going to make a ballet of that. That'd be kind of fucking crazy.
It would be so weird, but it would make
well, I remember, what was it? Blue Man Group was a thing. That was what's that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm blue, I believe
that was about, no, that wasn't that. That was Eiffel 45 or 65. The Blue Man Group was all about a class of musical performance that people like, that's spectacle orchestral performances, I've noticed. Because there's, what's the one where it's just people like smashing trash cans around or something? Stomp, yeah. Stomp was a big gimmick one. And then there was one that I really liked that was a copy of that, but it was like South Korean or something, and it was cooking. It was literally called cooking, and it was a bunch of people that were fake putting together dishes, and then they would make musicals out of it. And I was like, this is kind of interesting. So because my mother used to force me to go to musicals every time that we would be in New York, and so I saw a lot of them, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch this Stomp knockoff. And it was the least annoying. I find the gimmicky ones that are about pop culture to be the absolute worst ones. The best ones come from people who are just theater students and they write into that program style and they have their audience. You're never going to get people to really get into musicals unless you cross the barrier like a Disney film. Those figured it out. They figured out a way to make cinematic soundtrack music, popular songs, and theater to come together in a cartoon, and that is enjoyable by general audiences. The stage is the biggest barrier to reaching the general audience these days, because who wants to sit in the theater when they can just sit there and watch something on a screen? It's hard to get people to come out.
Now, if you're a kid and you're learning stuff for the first time, that's why Disney works. That's why Young People's Theater works, or all these other people in ballet or opera, that they start off early and they're in the orchestra, and you can go to them and listen to them, and they're great. There's all kinds of, well, there used to be, of course, I'm talking about in my experience, not this year, but previous years, where they had summer shows just open to the public. You can just go listen to some string quartets, productions of plays sometimes at night. So these things happened a lot, especially downtown Toronto. But yeah, no, I miss those days. I miss all the festivals this year have been canceled, including the Christmas market, which is a staple in December. It's all gone, and we have to live through it. It's pretty sad. And now we're listening to people on YouTube criticizing old dead white guys who are fasci and liked monarchy. Like, oh, that's horrible.
Oh, by the way, about what you were referencing about poetry, something that I was thinking of when you guys were talking about that was, I think Eliot's perspective is that the poetry that he's doing is to a form or to some sort of format, like kind of like how it's a meditation on something, like how haiku has a format or poetry can have a meters, that kind of thing, as opposed to the modernist view of it, like, how, express your emotion or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like a different way of looking at what the value of the poetry is. Is it form? Is it your writing, how you use syntax and how you use your sentence structure and stuff, or is it how you convey emotions? And I think it's an open question. There's no one is better than the other.
Especially in poetry, because it's so free form and you're allowed to have your own rule set or break old rules to do whatever effect you're looking for, as opposed to prose where you have to be very, very focused and work along the margins of the page, if you want, of course. But if you don't, you're going to piss a lot of people off and people are going to laugh at you. So it's the same thing with expectations, I think. And T.S. Eliot, being the giant he was, had his preferences. And he went, this is what I do, and this is what is working for me, and everyone likes it, therefore this is what I think. And when you have, was it Orwell, I think, trying to do new stuff and attack political powers or extreme examples of that, yeah, of course they're going to clash. I think that's pretty obvious. But which authors don't? Even with great friendships between authors, they don't see eye to eye 100% all the time. That's pretty rare. I'm reading one of Dunn's books. I told him, I was like, Dunn, your book is not great, but it's not garbage. It's in the middle. And it's a book he wrote 5 years ago, so I expect it to be not amazing. If it was gold, I'd be like, dude, you're a genius. So, I think Dunn would have figured that out by now. So there's reasons why we write. And I hate people like Fish who say, well, this is why T.S. Eliot did this, because he's a fascist.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's just annoying me. It's so insulting for people to make these interpretations that they know what a man like Whitman or Eliot or whoever was thinking when he wrote that because of his political beliefs or how he thought of women. It's just silly.
The cockroach shows how absurd the ideology within the society of cats is. This scene feels so wrong because we see the bugs' faces and we recognize them as human. Then we see Rebel Wilson's face and we recognize her as human. So we're seeing a human eat other humans with no sense of guilt, no sense of being emotionally...
See, this is where I just pause and wonder, what planet is Maggie May on that she's saying she sees people as she sees a cat character as a human and a little cockroach as a human. I don't even see them as characters. They're elements in a story. That's about it. It's a silly thing to even argue.
Affected at all. And the bugs just keep on dancing and smiling without missing a beat.
Gee, I wonder why.
Really weird looking.
Yeah, I mean, what is a dance choreography? Oh, why aren't they scared? Why aren't they running away from this giant cat eating them? Gee, maybe because it's not important. Their existence is made to fill this 2-minute dance number. Not hard.
In fascism or royalism or whatever you want to call it, the lower classes are expected to accept their role without question.
They're not a class. They're food. What are you talking about?
We need to support the cockroach class more.
What is she? This is stupid.
The bug people.
You can't have a caste system when one of the caste is food.
I for one think I am superior to the bug people.
I am very happy with saying that I am superior to even cats. I am okay with kicking a cat.
Can you imagine if cows were granted, sapience or consciousness and could talk to us? We'd be like, holy shit. We could stop eating them. They'd be considered intelligent organisms that we'd respect as not equals, but at least as another species. Like that would be, why do we not eat monkeys or what are orangutans? I don't know, probably because they're not very healthy, but we see them as some akin to the human mind. They have intelligence we can actually translate and test and all other things. If you have a caste system, which is like, I don't know, think of like Vampire the Masquerade or something, where you wouldn't start annihilating your humans because you're the best and baddest vampire. You treat them with, if you're an intelligent one, with respect, because they are your lifeline. You need them to survive. And that's part of the wonderful stories of the Masquerade, in Bloodlines. How are the Ventrue treating all the other classes or groups of vampires? How do they treat the people within the masquerade, the humans. This is very important to their ecosystem. So I don't know how it is with cats and cockroaches, but there's really not that much to it. It's just their food, and they dance, and that's about it.
Fish are friends, not food.
Yes.
This is what Eliot meant when he said Animal Farm needed more public-spirited pigs. We need leaders who will smile as they lead you to your death.
It's a weird argument. And
in Animal Farm? I mean, she's not technically wrong when we're talking about Animal Farm. But that's not what he was getting at, I don't think. I really don't think that was the point of the pigs in Orwell's story. If only they smiled more.
Me neither.
That's the kind of politicians we want in the story. Like, no.
Smile, honey.
Yeah, I don't think that's the problem with their politicians. They need to smile more.
Can someone please tell me that they are not posing in the shape of a Nazi flag? Please, just someone reassure me. Literally, actually,
What?
I know that this is not the Nazi flag, but if someone could just make like an hour-long video just saying, Maggie, that has nothing to do with Nazis, because later they all hold up their hands like this.
Okay, well, oh God.
Oh my God.
That's
not
a
a Roman
Nazi
salute at
you
all.
weirdo. That's extending your hand toward the sky.
This is the fourth time I've counted how many times she's said, like, she's self-aware and says something insane. I'm just like, I can't believe this. You're not that. If you're self-aware, you're not stupid anymore, right? You know what's happening. You're like, oh, look at that. Can someone please tell me if not the Nazi salute? Make an hour-long video. It's like, what? Are you trying to be funny or dumb? Like, which one is it? This is not the Nazi salute. I'm sorry. This is like, what do you? Like,
I mean, she knows it's not, but just someone tell her that it's not.
this is like trying to put on a persona, like the Plinkett persona from Red Letter Media. Like he knows it's a joke, but Maggie doesn't have one. She's just Maggie. It's really hard to take her seriously now. Well, we've always had this problem, but you know.
And it was written by a Nazi sympathizer. I'm sorry. I know that this has nothing to do with anything. I've just been in lockdown for days, and I've just seen this movie so many times. Anyways, here's some poetry that I'm really proud of. Eliot was, like many others, a silly human, we'd say.
Oh dear.
Afraid of his own kind, his own people, his own face, who believes poetry can only say what has already been said explicitly, who strangely believed there are traits by ethnicity.
Not true.
There are,
He is
though.
long and gone and cannot utter a word, which is maybe better from all that I've heard. But since
You know,
he never
rhyming
reached out
doesn't
for
make your
comment,
poetry
whether it's
good.
Tit for tat.
Maybe you should rethink it. Or
No,
should?
of Eliot. From the view of a cat. So why do I enjoy this trash fire of a movie? It's
'Cause
kind of
you're
hard to put
crazy.
into words, and I spent the better part of an hour trying. You have this work of art that on...
If you spend an hour and you haven't got a central thesis of your argument, maybe you should rethink how you actually write arguments or whatever.
Her problem is she's like, T.S. Eliot is this crypto-fascist who wrote Cats, but I still like it. How do I explain that to my woke friends?
I guess so.
This is like trying to
don't know.
explain why Transformers is entertaining and just missing the actual reason and talking for an hour about random stuff about politics. It's sad. It's like, honey, you could have cut this down to about 4 minutes. I like the dancing. I like the songs. I like the makeup. And all this stuff about T.S. Eliot I don't like. And yeah, that'd be fine.
Been here.
Message coming in.
We've been watching this freaking hour-long video about nothing.
Okay, here's Cool Man 229. Thank you, sir. Raise his hand just a bit. Mark Hamill, Nazi quote. This is just like that time PewDiePie pointed to something off camera and people claimed He was Nazi saluting. Oh, God.
Oh, I hate that. She's a furry burner. Jamie Johnson just said, like, mute. ... Oh, gosh.
You know, I don't mind people having passions and liking things. I'm totally fine with you going on for about 10, 20 minutes. Oh, this is great because of XYZ. She went on for maybe 40 minutes, hating on the thing, hating on the writers, hating on the this and that. You're like, why? This is not have anything to do with the film or the musical or the dancing. It's all this other nonsense that she, I don't know, connected the dots because T.S. Eliot likes the monarchy. It's a very strange take.
Take responsibility. Chose this. Yeah, aren't you not entertained? Not entertained.
It's pretty draining, honestly, because there's things which I know she's saying make sense, and then she just retards it with this obsession with politics. I don't understand. She just jumps into it every chance she gets.
One level is rooted in fascist propaganda, but on an aesthetic level...
Okay, there is no fascist propaganda in Cats, okay, guys? There's none. I shouldn't have to say that, right? But
if you think there is, you are nuts. And if you think that you are nuts, there is no fascist propaganda.
It's insane! Who the hell says this? It's a musical about a bunch of people dressed up as cats jumping up and down.
Jellicle cats, the catty kitty, the cat.
And they're part of a death cult. That's probably as best as the association between that and the Nazis is. That's as close as it gets, I think. I don't know.
It's revolting and seemingly inane. And at the same time, I also find it strangely pretty in a horrifying, gaudy kind of way. And Idris Elba exudes sexuality, and the dancing rules, and the music is really catchy, even if the new version's audio mix is terrible. It's as if this movie shows you fascism, but then also makes
you could have... That should have been her entire video right there, the past 20 seconds. That would have worked.
What is wrong? What is... Just... Idris Elba exudes sexuality and the dancing rocks so hard. This feels like Patrick fangasming over TLJ.
That's all these people do.
That's what this feels like.
That's all they do. They really like something. I feel X. I'm going to express X in as many... Oh, I'm a political moron. I'm going to talk about politics. You know what? T.S. Eliot didn't like democracy. I'm going to bash him for 20 minutes. Like, okay. You know who didn't like democracy? George Orwell. I will talk about him. It's like, okay.
revolt same fascism, unintentionally, with an added scoop of expressive dance. Maybe it's accidentally clockwork oranging you, brainwashing you into disliking the ideas that are contained within the movie itself. Or maybe it's like Springtime for Hitler, an accidental parody of itself.
What? No! No, it's not!
What?
Definitely not that.
I don't really know. I love the experience of Cats. It's like they were trying to paint a modernist masterpiece, but as they were painting it, they tripped down the stairs. So they ended up with this whole other surreal mess of spilled paint that's also a masterpiece in its own way.
It's a masterpiece for being a piece of shit.
That's retarded. That is so dumb.
It's like saying The Room is good because Tommy Wiseau is an idiot filmmaker.
That's like saying the Sistine Chapel is great because Michelangelo spilled all his paint and left the columns all blue.
Like, yeah, it's interesting in its own way. It's a masterpiece. You did it. Here's your participation trophy.
Just say you like it. And you don't know why. Is that so hard? You seem to think it's this modern piece of genius. And if it's modern art, then you're done. Your argument's finished.
Like Tenet. I can't quite understand why, because the movie gives me a headache.
I still haven't seen Tenet, I know. It's kind of weird. All the reviews are like, what the hell is wrong with this movie?
experience that I can't put into words. But that's okay, because not every experience or emotion can be reduced to a simple object or sentence, Mr. Eliot.
Yes, it can. It really can. It really can. And if you can't do that, you need to learn English. You need to reflect on what you're looking at, and you can ascribe a thought. We have lots of words. We can definitely ascribe a thought, even if the thought is, I'm not sure it's profound. There are a bunch of animals dancing around eating cockroaches. You can describe what you see. Modern dance is not the easiest thing to interpret, nor should it probably be interpreted. But Cats is not modern dance. There's lyrics. There's a song. There's a plot. There are characters, or at least a character. I don't know the rest of the ensemble. I don't know what they're trying to do. But she was always talking about the patriarchal character and this and that. And you're like, all right, yeah. So you got characters there. That's a story there. I take out all the dance and musicals. There's still a story. You're just describing the dancing parts you like. You can't, because I don't get it. Go to ballet school. I'm sure there's going to be some teachers that could tell you what the dancing means, what the forms mean. Every artist on the planet who has a discipline in a certain area can tell you not exactly what something means, but what it's trying to do. What's the point of it?
The experience of Cats feels like to me. It feels like the inability to express my own emotions.
I hate this so much. You have no idea how much I hate this subjective nonsense. Oh, it's so profound. I cannot understand. It is so important to me. It's like, did you see the mountaintop? Fine. Just say I went to the top of the mountain. I looked out into the horizon, and I saw life as I never saw it before. It's fine. You don't have to describe all the peaks and valleys and clouds. Just enjoy your experience and leave the rest to the actual poets. The poets you hate because they're fashy and like and like, I don't know, years gone by because they're old.
Mere words. It makes me want to be more conscious of my own feelings that I don't have words for.
Because you're an idiot.
And I think that's beautiful. So
I think that's
thank you
so beautiful.
Andrew.
I'm so ignorant. I don't understand myself. It's beautiful. Okay, so she's not much of a critic. We'll give her that much. She doesn't understand her own feelings. That's fine. But we had to sit through this to figure out your feelings, and you still haven't told us.
Lloyd Webber, thank you T.S. Eliot, and thank you Tom Hooper for making me fall in love with the 2-hour experience of realizing that you're all a bunch of hacks.
Oh my God, we're done.
Oh. How?
I do not. This is like saying, I want to marry you. I hate you, you disgusting bitch. I'm going to kill you. Let's get married tomorrow. Or something bizarre like that. It's like this passive-aggressive nonsense. She's done this several times. She's insulted these people. She's insulted, what was that philosopher? Russell.
Bertram?
Yeah, because he was a best friend of Eliot and he cheated on his wife or whatever. It's like, I don't care. I don't care that he has personal issues and they're human and they have sexual urges and they don't know how to control them. I don't care. Russell is one of our greatest thinkers of our time. Modern thinkers.
But he fucked around.
Good. Maybe. You know what? I was just thinking about this. I was watching the Masters. What's his name? Tiger Woods. He was like +4 or whatever. He's garbage. He sucks. You know when he was fucking around? He was banging all those prostitutes, minus 16.
He was doing the best of his
He was
life.
Amazing. I don't care. If that's his fuel, that's what he needs, go bang some. I don't care. Go for it.
Someone get this man a porn star quick.
Please.
Get him.
His career sucks.
Get this man's career back on track. Someone suck his dick, please.
Please. I don't care. Get into all the scandals. Just do your job right. I do not care how artists get to the plateau they're on. But for this sniveling worm to insult them for being artists is just, it's ironic. It's sad.
insulting.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, well, that is terrifying.
Whoa,
that
there
is
you
terrifying.
go. Now we know. Now we know. Now we know. Now we know what's going on. This is why she likes cats.
It's weird and disturbing on multiple levels.
Yeah. I've never been never mind.
That face is horrifying.
The mask of sanity slips slower every day.
So creepy.
All right. Well, that was enough.
over.
That was enough for like 3 months. That was the worst video of hers. Not because it was the craziest, but she's insulting people. And she's calling them fascists and all this other It's like, how, everyone's using the term nowadays on Twitter or this or that, calling people fascist or totalitarians. Like, it's such a childhood recess sort of insult. Like, are you seriously calling people this? They think people in America are fascists. I'm sure there are some Nazis out there and white nationalists. There's groups of them. We know there's various groups, but they're in the very, very minority. And for her to throw that word around and to talk about our great authors and poets is, I mean, it's bad enough not to have appreciation for these YouTubers, but it's like take any author you love or philosopher or anything you've read. You're like, wow, this guy really has insight into humanity. Isaac Newton, he's really, he really got in there. He knows about the universe more than anyone else. And for her to just start swearing at her because, he was drinking this and he believed in God or something bizarre like that. Like, oh, wow. Horrible, horrible person. I don't care about their personal beliefs and other things. When I want to talk about physics or I want to learn about calculus, I go to Mr. Newton.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Anyway, I think I could successfully stop and call it a night.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
John Lenley money? Is that why they do this? I guess so. Yeah.
Joe crazy.
That was enough. I need some bourbon or something. Make myself a Tennessee Mule or just chill out.
Apparently Joe Crazy needs some bleach for his eyes.
Yeah, no, I find
the ending was the cherry on the top.
Yeah, no.
Message coming in.
I find the
through.
mule version of cocktails to be very refreshing. So.
Yeah, me too. Moscow Mule.
Moscows are great. Yeah, I just prefer the sweeter version with the bourbon. Yeah. But I love my ginger beer. So ginger beer makes everything better. Anyway, Everjance. Every day we stray further from the light. I don't know. I think these people are perverse enough. We listen to them and go, wow, that is wrong. Every
multiple levels.
Every take is just so bad that it's like I'm never ever gonna think that way. There's no possible logical
Message
way
coming in.
I get from here to
Patching
Maggie
it through.
No Fish. It's just almost not gonna happen. Anyway, let's go watch LitDev stream some Life is Strange.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll see you guys over there.
All right, guys. Thank you, John Lenley. Why are we still here? Just to be traumatized? Sorry about that.
Welcome.
Anyway, blame Dunn. Go bug him on Twitter. You know how to do it. And we'll see you guys real soon.